they're going to ask for a deadline for our I-Part 2.0 to be done, realistically, your contract ends. You're done. Can I-Part 2.0 county staff and city staff make whatever changes? I mean, it sounded like when we met, y'all were going to adopt what you wanted to, pick and choose as you needed.
So I'm not.
It's not a monolithic plan. I talked to Patrick this morning about that option. Whatever we can do while they're here. And if it runs long, by December, we definitely have it back.
Extend our con, but also there's
Flexibility.
changes like
You got the
give it to them. After the budget,
we can't keep
Good morning, everyone. If we would, please start to find our seats.
District 3 knows how to party, baby. Better. There's a lot of people here. I feel like this is a sax special right here. What's up? I don't mean commissioner job, I just mean the card job.
Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Baxter,
Present.
Vice Mayor Woodward,
Here.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
here.
Commissioner Powell,
Here.
Commissioner Sachs, Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Thank you.
If you're able, please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Dear God, we are meeting today to conduct matters of business for our community. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness. Impart your wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, Powell's excited.
Love the enthusiasm. Proof of publication. We'll entertain a motion to receive and file.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Powell, a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Please see that that motion carries 7-0. Assistant Administrator, do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Mayor, good morning. You have just one on the cover page and a slight amendment to the language on item 5B2, compatibility text. Otherwise, no other changes.
I have a motion by
If I may,
Commissioner.
Mayor, I'm sorry. We did receive correspondence yesterday afternoon that's included in the packet from Insight Studio requesting postponement for item 5A2, which is Happy Hollow. So that's for the board's consideration. It came in after the potential for an administrative amendment, so the board would have to take action on that.
I'll make a motion to
would you like to make the motion to amend and the postponement? Correct. Including the postponement. So I have a motion by Commissioner Flores, a second by Commissioner Sacks. All in favor? Any opposed? Please say, excuse me, Commissioner Marino, before we vote. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to reorder the agenda, please. I would like to move item 5B1 up after we talk about item 3, the countywide transportation master plan. It just seems to fit in order that way.
So it goes before or after?
It would go right after the countywide transportation master plan,
So after 3C,
after item 3.
so,
I'll second that.
all right, 5B1, right after 3CT. Or, yeah.
3C.
3C.
3, item 3, yes.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Marino, a second by Vice Mayor Woodward.
We still haven't voted on the first.
I think, okay, so we have the amendment, we have the postponement, and we are reordering all in this motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Marino. I have a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor? Any opposed? Please say that the motion carries 7-0.
Just one thing, did we have any cards on the item that is being postponed?
5-8.
Yeah, so we'll need to hear from them.
It would be, okay, so if you are here for Happy Hollow, correct? It's 5A2? We have cards, so now that, only thing we'll be listening to are on the postponement today. So Commissioner Flores, if you would, please call them forward. And we will take the vote again after we hear from the postponement, on the postponement.
Denise Bednar. Or is it Darius? Coming up, or you're not speaking? I wish to speak, yep. I have Barbara Roth, Dagmar Braz, Jim Knight, Linda Smith, the usual suspects, Mark Perry, Gail Ladd, Mike Atchison, Judy Hill, Matthew Pinchik, and Asib Madori.
And again, today we're going to hear if you're in favor or against the postponement, or you can wait to come back when the item comes back to us.
Okay.
If you want to,
Favor of the postponement.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Barbara Roth representing Cobra. Cobra is in favor of the postponement.
Thank you so much.
Mike Atchison. I wish we would hear this today. I feel like it goes to the broader spoke of the Ag Reserve, so I'm not in favor of the postponement.
Thank you. I do not wish to speak. Okay. Thank you.
I got Jim Knight.
Hi, Judy Hill. Good morning. I'm on 9718 Happy Hollow Road, and I'm in favor of the postponement for this. Okay.
Judy Hill.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Jim Knight, in favor of the postponement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Smith. The reason I'm a usual suspect is I keep coming for this project. So I'm asking you to hear it today, in order. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Perry, for the record, I'm in favor of the postponement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew Pinchik, similar to the prior comment, happy to cooperate with the postponement, but hope to have the same results.
Thank you.
Hi, Azeb Madori. I live in the Ag Reserve, and I support the postponement.
Thank you.
Hi, Gail Ladd, Jupiter, Florida. I am ask you to hear it today. I'm against the postponement.
Okay, no lights. We have.
Does the applicant want to address anything?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we have one already. We have one by Commissioner Marino and a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. We already voted. We'll just redo it. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay, now on to regular agenda. So Master Transportation Plan. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Twee Shutt with the Planning Division. Before you is the proposed countywide transportation master plan, also known as CTMP for short. This is a result of over 2 years' worth of work and collaboration. It is the first of its kind in the region, probably in the state of Florida as well. With me are representatives from our consultant team, WSP USA, Emily Ritzer, Mariah Dekel, and online are Mr. Behzad Karimi and Mr. Larry Burns. At the table, we have planning staff, our county engineer, David Ricks, and other representatives in the room of various county departments for any questions. We wanted to first of all thank the WSP team, the stakeholders, which includes a lot of people. I'll try to summarize: municipal representatives, special district representative, our transportation partners, the business community, and obviously our residents who's been with us throughout the process. Next slide, please. Why are we here? The county and the purpose of the county-wide transportation master plan is to establish a framework for a planning horizon up to 2050 for a safer, more efficient, and connected modal transportation system. The plan was developed in a 4-stage process, and this reflects the 4 chapters of the draft master plan. It builds upon the existing plans, and it involves technical analysis and stakeholders' input to identify priorities and guide future transportation decision throughout the county. In short, the CMT hopes to align transportation investment, policy, and priorities across Palm Beach County. It's built, again, on local regional plans and input from all stakeholders. It also creates a decision-making and coordination framework for future mobility needs. And hopefully it establishes a pathway from planning and recommendations to implementation. Next slide, please. Again, if I would be allowed a few minutes to have the background for the purpose of the members of the public. This planning process started back in May, I believe, of 2024. The board asked staff to go and connect with the universities and college to come up with a transportation study for the county, and to use that study to hire a consultant to help us solve and come up with solutions. That direction was revised, and then in July 17th, the board asked staff to work with the local municipal representatives and transportation folks to come up with a RFP scope of work, which we did. And December 12th, the RFP, the request for proposal, I hate to have to keep saying it, but I know sometimes these acronym sounds like Morse code, so I'll try my best to explain that. The request for proposal was issued, and with a closing date in March. The WSP team won the project with their experience, and not only international but national, as well as local experience and expertise with local and regional transportation planning. Next slide, please. So as part of the process, the proposal, WSP has proposed a 12-month process in coordination with staff and the stakeholders. It was an ambitious goal, but the team made a commitment that this could be accomplished with overlapping and concurrent tasks. In February of this year, the BCC extended the process to allow for additional time for more engagement with the stakeholders, and also if the county is looking for a dedicated funding source, everyone needs to be heard and every input is needed to go into the plan. So since that time, we worked with WSP, went back and got more engagement from the stakeholders, which basically allows us to have 2 additional meetings with the iPark 2.0, and I will explain how that process works with our recommendations and input to ultimately for your consideration. We also were able to get 2 MCFEC issues forms meeting. So iPark 2.0 and MCFEC is part of the intergovernment coordination plan that the county has, and it involves experts from all 39 municipalities, our transportation partners such as FDOT, MPO, PPGO. We also involved a lot of the business communities as well. And as it's planned out, MCFEC is a multi-jurisdictional issues coordination forum executive committee. And if I may refer that to MCFEC from now on, an issues forum is a group that consists of elected officials from all 39 municipalities. So as we go through this process, there were a lot of public input and venues that were set up to elicit these input from the various stakeholders. We've had many organizations, 65 plus organizations to be correct, 7 Palm Beach County departments and 6 transportation providers, and all the input is channeled through these forums and event through the Intergovernment Coordination Program. Okay. As I said before, we took the time from February till now to re-engage with all our partners. Next slide, please. I'm going to do a quick overview of the plan recommendation. Okay. The plan primarily focused on 2 needs: projects that improve transportation system and policies that support implementation. The recommendation framework is based on 3 strategies. As you can see here, the first is to optimize what we have. Second is to expand where it's needed. And the third is transform mobility, all while working together to deliver these results. Through analysis, technical analysis and synthesis, the stakeholders' input, 21 high-need corridors with multiple projects were identified for multimodal improvements. And this is really these corridors are the ones that have the county-wide significance for transportation improvements. The policy recommendation builds on existing policies and plans from all stakeholders and identify needs to support implementation. There are key measures, including modernizing transportation level service and quality of service standards, expansion of multimodal development review integration to support transit and land use amendments that is supportive of the transit. Evaluation of transition from road impact fees to a broader multimodal program, and applying context-sensitive design guidance for urban, suburban, and rural corridors. This section also, as Mariah and Emily will be presenting, there'll be recommended new standards for alternative modes of transportation, including autonomous vehicles and advanced air mobility planning. A countywide transportation demand management program is also recommended in these policies. Freight and truck parking coordination, and a formal implementation strategy to track projects, policy actions, funding opportunities, and intergovernmental coordination over time. With this includes my intro, and I will turn the microphone over to Emily for more detailed presentation of the CTMP and recommendation. Then I'll come back to wrap the presentation up. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present the plan today. Let me skip forward here. We are going to go through the plan and how we got here and what our quick wins are and the long-term planning needs of the Comprehensive Transportation Master Plan. So the purpose of today is to present to you our recommendations and talk about the adoption of this plan as a first step in an implementation process carrying a cohesive plan forward. We are looking at how we move from planning into the implementation phase. Throughout this process, what we were trying to do is create one encompassing plan that included all of the plans from different municipalities, as well as ongoing planning activities that were being completed by the county and county partners. Included here is a short list of some of those plans, the municipal plans, Palm Trans Transit Development Plan, which is actually currently underway, the 561 Transit Plan, and others listed here. Also, in addition to this, the newly completed Safe Streets for All Action Plan. So again, this is a dynamic process that is continuing to bring in all of those different activities in order to, again, create a decision framework for the transportation decisions moving forward. Today, we are asking for a motion to adopt, which Twee will come back with at the end. This plan is designed to be a living document and to be a dynamic process. One of the deliverables that we'll be leaving with is a comprehensive database, online database of all of the projects that have been vetted in this process and to be carried forward, and an opportunity to continue to update that database with ongoing planning efforts. Right. I'm not skipping forward. Sorry. So what is the Countywide Transportation Master Plan? Again, this is a countywide framework that really positions the county and the municipalities in a partnership to complete projects and carry a path forward. Think about competition for funding, how to coordinate investments, and deliver long-term transportation improvements through 2050. Throughout this process, as we look to 2050, this is in addition to and not in replacement of other planning activities where there are planned and programmed projects. The pipeline of projects that we have brought in almost 2,000 projects that are in that database. Again, that is all in one place to be carried forward as a deliverable action. We have a mechanism to think about the modernization of the system. This comes into some of our activities around optimization, really thinking also about the traffic signal network and how that can work to solve some of the congestion issues within the county. And having a coordinated strategy overall with local, regional, state, and federal partners of how to bring the plan investments through 2050 to a targeted investment in these high-need corridors. A key component of this was also looking at being future-focused and thinking about advanced technology and what is happening from a adoption process as new technologies come into play, and making sure that this plan and policy is taking into consideration those activities that are happening rapidly and changing dynamics in the technology space related to transportation. So the difference from the comprehensive transportation plan from other activities, we have existing plans that tell us what has been planned. The goal of this plan is to talk about how those plans work together and how we can implement this moving forward. Again, not replacing other documents, but integrating the pieces together into one decision framework. It does build on these existing plans and does not replace them, and it coordinates priorities for investment without creating other agencies in order to deliver this plan forward. So just to give an idea of the scope and the scale of the effort, this, as Twee stated, this was a lot of coordination. We worked with many different partner agencies as well as all of the 39 municipalities. In each of the districts, we have laid out the number of projects here that were submitted to us in this process. We did coordinate and ask for plans, projects, recommendations that we should be considering and compiling in this plan. There are some overlapping areas of that. That's where our 21 high-need corridors that I'll talk about in more detail. But just to give an idea of the scale of the work that was done and the coordination efforts between all of these different parties. And I do have to say thank you to everyone who committed their time into this. It was a big ask, and we had a lot of people at a lot of meetings sharing a lot of really good insight. So what will this result in? Really, the main focus here is the toolbox that's being provided for that decision-making framework for the municipalities, thinking about safety, connectivity, how do we inform land use through transportation, really looking at the modal connectivity as well, whether that be through bicycle and pedestrian facilities, enhanced transit options, and also what improvements and investments can be made to roadways. all wrapped in a mindset of resiliency and how the system can work harder and better and be optimized for the community. This plan was intentionally fiscally unconstrained because we wanted to think about what the future could be and what those opportunities are and where investments need to be. So this is different than a typical long-range transportation plan that is mandated to be fiscally constrained. So the plan was built out in a 4-stage process, and that process is how we define the different chapters. Sorry.
Please. And please remind us of your name again.
Emily.
Emily, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So we've had a few of these master transportation plans at this point of covering a lot of the strategies and going forward. And I ultimately think we want to know what projects that you are recommending to us if we could potentially get there.
Yeah,
it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no problem. I'll skip ahead if you.
And excuse me, Vice Mayor Woodward.
Thank you. I would actually like to hear the presentation. We invested over $1 million into this, and I think it's good for the public to hear the full process.
If we could at least try to move through this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so the 4 primary areas really align with establishing a baseline, what the future needs are, where the collaboration is, and ultimately the implementation strategy. And then really, again, balancing those priorities, we've discussed the different public and stakeholder meetings and how the plan was informed. So to get into the prioritized recommendations, we have a 3-tier implementation framework that is built around optimize, expand, and transform. So the optimize piece is really about how can we have quick wins and utilize the infrastructure that is available today and make it work better. And then the expand are projects that need further development.
Excuse me, Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Let's see if this, it's working.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to voice my opinion on these 3 words because they've been changed and they went from primary, supporting, and screen fuller to optimize, expand, and transform yesterday or Monday, which for whatever reason, screen further and transform are 2 totally different concepts. I understand what you mean by transform, but screen further is completely different than transform. Transform means, yes, we're going to grab this and we're going to do this. Screen further means there's a lot more research we need to do before we can implement. So for you to put the word transform here, and you heard, I'm not sharing anything with you that you haven't already heard, so everybody out there, I've already said this to them. I don't appreciate the word change on Monday from screen further to transform because they have 2 completely different meanings. So I'm just voicing my disapproval on that. You had it was inconsistent in the book. I have the 2,000 pages printed. Sorry, it's awfully loud. But again, transform means something that we are actually going to accomplish. Now, do we have goals to do that? Yes, we do. Screen further means there's a lot more work that needs to be done before we have to exhaust all other possibilities. Transform doesn't say that, and I think that's a little deceptive. Now, if you're picking these words because this is what you want to sell to the public, that's a different story. But you have to sell this to us, and you have to be honest with us. And transform is not the right word. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Marino. And just to add on to that, I mean, I understood you said that this was without fiscal restraints, but screening means we also have to take those into account because it's not an endless amount. And so I do agree that it is a little misleading. And my frustration all along has been, and we keep talking, and we've had several community events, we've had several meetings of bringing everyone together. And every time we come to this, we cover the same exact thing about planning, which is why I was trying to get eventually to the actual plan and not just keep talking about all the things we did to get there. So if we could eventually get to what we're trying to accomplish with this over $1 million that we've spent, I would greatly appreciate that. So please proceed.
Yeah. Yes, and the transform is looking at the long-range solutions that would require additional study. They are conceptual ideas at this time that would need to be carried forward. And again, looking at the 2050 lens with those opportunities.
May I, Mayor? I would like to read
You're
into
recognized.
the record what screen further says. It means retain as option, advance only after additional technical review, public engagement, alternative analysis, and funding review. That is totally different than transform. I'm going to repeat that. Thank you.
So through the recommendations and the screening components, we have 21 high-need corridors that were identified, and the projects that are within these corridors are those that are the priorities for mobility improvements. These are the high-impact routes with the greatest potential for system-wide benefits that are beyond what is already planned and programmed in the other planning documents. Just to further lay out what those 21 corridors are, this is a list of those high-impact routes where we've compiled the recommendations to carry forward. These are a blend of different types of projects that can be included, including increased transit frequency, bicycle and pedestrian improvements. Some may be expansion. We're also looking at how do these corridors, again, optimize them through some signal timing and enhancements. So the prioritized recommendations under the optimized category is really focused on the data-driven screening that we completed, focusing on congestion relief, safety improvements, and multimodal access. These projects include recommendations that are organized by the modal type of improvements: roadway, rail improvements, traffic operations, intersections, transit and bicycle and pedestrians, and also looking at complete streets. This draws down from those 2,000 projects that were provided to us and looking at how to focus on, again, mostly congestion relief and safety investments in the optimized components. This is an example of the corridor recommendations that is provided for each of the 21 corridors and then laid out the projects that are included. So they're mapped out as well as a table of the recommendations with how they would be carried forward and which category that they fall into and how we would proceed in recommendations of what further work may need to be completed for each of those. For the expand recommendations, these are near and midterm concepts that may require further study before being entered into the capital program. So we're looking at high capacity and high frequency needs that align with the other planning objectives that have been completed for transit. Understanding where projects are, we know that additional study is being completed for some of these concepts and how to work with those study activities that are happening. Focusing on transit hubs as the center of mobility on-demand zones and being able to create connectivity with circulator services. This is where the beginning of the technology investments will be coming in, thinking about intelligent transportation systems, adaptive signal control and transit signal priorities, and looking at how to bring that together into a stronger traffic management center that creates a coordinated system-wide network. There are some pilot projects that have been completed on specific corridors, but really bringing that into a cohesive network approach where the corridors work together. We do have a tiered approach for the type of traffic signal improvements that can be made and the conditions of a corridor and the type of investment that is most appropriate for those corridors. The transform projects are long-range concepts that may have regional benefit, but need more study and funding and interagency agreements to carry forward. The grade-separated concepts that have been proposed are things that would need to be, would need a comprehensive study and alternatives analysis before they could be carried forward and to understand the true cost of that type of investment. Rail grade separations are another large investment, but something that would have a high impact in.
Excuse me, Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just asking our friends that are handling the slides. It's hard to read the slides up on the big screen, so if you can keep them on our displays that are on our desks, I would really appreciate it, because the font is a little small.
And yeah, if we could put it on presentation mode as well up there, so it takes up the full screen, so the people in the audience could also.
But I'd like to, on our little monitors here, I'd like to be able to read it.
It's a PDF, not a PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you.
You can zoom into the PDF.
You could.
You can zoom in.
A Zoom. Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
Mayor, back to it. You're correct. To make it bigger, I can see people squinting.
There we
I have
go.
glasses if anybody needs them, but it's important that it take up the entire screen so they can read it. And I'm sure we can do that with our tech here in the county.
Thank you.
I think that's as good as it's going to get. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then within this were some of the conceptual ideas that we brought forward on the idea of managed flex or transit lanes within corridors in order to maximize the person throughput of areas. Again, this would require further analysis on the corridors, what type of movement is being conducted there. The idea here is understanding where you have a lot of peak hour congestion, and could these lanes be used to help with person throughput through some of the high used corridors. We also looked at premium transit options in the existing plans and advanced mobility. The advanced mobility options are some of the technology improvements that we see coming, whether that be through robo-taxi type service and some of the air mobility options that are being considered, but also looking at how to coordinate around different proposed projects through regional rail and other proposed projects from the airport around the automated people mover system.
This one.
I don't know if it's going through. Did it go? I think so.
We might have to switch. Yeah.
Okay. Is it on? That's not the policy recommendations. It's not the next slide. Can you go to the next one?
Keeps going to.
The next.
There we go.
Okay, great. Also, as a part of the plan, are policy recommendations, and these policy recommendations are really the framework for the decision-making elements moving forward. So thinking about emerging technology, adopting policy frameworks, especially for autonomous vehicles and urban air mobility, and also looking at some of the opportunities for technology in freight monitoring and truck parking partnerships, policies for transportation funding, evaluating the transitioning from the road impact fees to the multimodal fee program, and also looking at the traffic performance standards ordinance. We are looking at recommendations around the methodology for level of service and quality of service standards to adopt performance measures related to multimodal level of service. There are recommendations on active transportation to close some of those network gaps, prioritize needs for ADA compliance, and supporting trails and micromobility. There's also policy recommendations around access and design management and creating access management corridors, looking at the typical sections that we'll share more, that again is a part of that toolbox for people to use, and early coordination around utilities. We have an evaluation for transportation governance and thinking about independent governance framework for regional transportation coordination, and then ultimately establish a formal implementation program for the project delivery, policy adoption, coordination, funding, and performance reporting. So some of the quick wins that we pulled out of, that are coming out of this plan is really building on this momentum of the plan that we have, thinking about advanced technology and launching pilot programs for autonomous vehicles, looking at opportunities for robo-van and robo-taxi type services that can use the transit hubs, looking at first mile, last mile circulators that connect to the trunk lines of the transit system, optimizing corridors using AI technology and how that feeds into a traffic management system, and test emerging delivery and air mobility options, and thinking about pilot programs that are starting to use that airspace. Improving the Palm Plan service frequency and supporting the plans for improvements to bus shelters and adding new bus shelters and passenger amenities. Also upgrading the traffic management center in
Commissioner
order.
Flores, you're recognized.
Good morning. Thank
Good
you
morning.
for being here today. In regards to that slide, you have identified for quick wins Palm Tran as one of those easy, I'm assuming if it's quick, it should be easier to move along. But you're asking for more frequency bus shelters and passenger amenities. What leads you to believe this is the way that we should be moving forward?
In the public process, we did get a lot of comments and requests for at least improvements in frequency of service and especially bus shelters as part of the public feedback that we received, and looking for programs that could possibly fund this through the Federal Transit Administration is something we know that there is a bus shelter program happening, and just continuing to invest in that frequency. And
So as an expert in this field, would you say that investing in public transportation is a good policy from this board?
Yes.
It's something that we should continue to invest and to
Yes.
continue to expand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
Following up on what Commissioner Flores talked about, you said that there were federal funds that could work with us to invest in public transportation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good. What are those federal funds? You don't have to identify them now, but you will identify them so that when it comes time for us to put more money into public transportation, you will make sure that we be able to access those federal funds.
Yes, we can have a list of the type of programs that are available for these
I'm not
specific
talking
kind of
about
improvements.
programs. I'm talking
It's
about
the
money,
the grant programs.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
good.
Yes.
And at some point in your project here, you'll let us know what they are and how you can access them for us, so we can get federal funds to increase our transportation.
Yes.
Public. Thank you.
Was there any technical analysis, or was it just people that use Palm Trans feedback into your policy proposal?
A lot of this was actually in some of it is in the technical analysis and building off of the prior transit plans that were done. So
where were our transit plans or somewhere else?
They're a combination of the transit development plan and also the 561 plan and the MPO work that has been done around transit. The number one project that was listed in the transit plans was an increase in frequency.
For the buses?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this doesn't take into account the financial part of this?
No.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to wait till the end, but since we stopped on the slide, I might as well get this one out of the way. On the Palm Tran frequency and bus shelters and amenities, is part of that also helping us optimize the routes? Because I do believe that the frequency is very important. When we have certain bus routes where it's once an hour, we do have low ridership, but part of that's maybe because of the low frequency. But also, we want to make sure we're hitting the high capacity areas where either the density of the population lives or where the density of the jobs are, or whatever it is, that where people live and where they're going. So is that also considered in the frequency model that you're put here?
Yes, and I would say that the PalmTran is working on a transit development plan right now, so we don't necessarily want to supersede the work that is happening with that, but as support of what they are developing within that, be able to demonstrate the need for that increase in frequency.
Okay, because a previous board, more than a decade or so, I decided to change a little bit and do a coverage model instead of a frequency. But in your expert opinions, are you saying that the frequency is probably more important than coverage with less frequency?
Yes.
Okay. And then on that one, also, you've got the optimize the corridors with AI real-time traffic data, and then we also have the traffic management system. Is part of this making our intersections smarter?
Yes.
Okay. Is that on multiples of these, or is this kind of an integrated part? But this is part of early momentum, right, on the traffic signalization?
Right. I think within this is really expanding the current traffic management center to have more capacity and support more corridors, because it works better when the system works together instead of having corridors have standalone investment. I don't know if, David, you want to add anything into that?
David Ricks, County Engineer. So right now we have a project down Okeechobee Corridor, about 20 signals. We're doing adaptive signal technology. And so the project has been launched. We're looking at next April to have that project completed. But the long-term vision is looking at other corridors to using the same technology to move traffic along those major corridors. But it's consistent with the recommendations that is in the Master Transportation Plan.
Okay, because in questions that I've had, just with our experts, other cities' experts, and sorry for traffic engineers out there, but I think some of them are taught how to create traffic for job security. Because there's a number of different types of technology, and I don't think that us having adaptive for every intersection is what makes sense, because sometimes we have certain corridors that are very much rush hour corridors, and others that are, by the time it adapts, it's changed. So there's a number of different ways we can do this, and is that part of this where it's a multitude of different signalization?
Yes, we actually have a tiered approach to the traffic signal piece and which corridors are appropriate for adaptive versus those that are more appropriate for coordinated signals. So that is in the document of that tiered approach and how to apply it depending on the use of the corridor, because the more congested and heavily used and larger corridors are more appropriate for the adaptive versus some of the smaller routes might be better with coordinated.
And this is considered like an early low-hanging fruit option, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not
yes.
5-10 years
and
from
I
now.
think it's some that evolves over time as well. Start with building out some of those corridors, and then as being ready for the technology advancements as they come in. One of the ideas here is looking at the AI technology as well, and how information can be used and adapt in real time. To your question about intersections, that's a use case where we're seeing AI advancements quite a bit, with cameras being able to assess conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. So when we talk about frequency, I think we also asked when you were going through this project and you were talking to the municipalities, of which I believe it was 36 out of 39 that responded. One of the questions that we asked of all of you to ask them was, what do they see their future land use as? And where do they see density increasing in their municipalities? Have you factored that into this equation when you talk about a frequency model? Because if we're not taking into consideration future growth, and I know traditionally you only take into consideration what is here now and previously, but as you transform, still don't like that, as you transform, you're talking about future. So have you taken into consideration future density, future land use in this equation? Because, let me continue, the majority of the people in this county do not ride mass transit. If we are going to go to them in the future and ask for a dedicated funding source, they are not going to approve something if they don't feel that they can use it. So there you go. It's a multi-tiered question. Go ahead and try and answer.
Yes, we did take in future growth into consideration. We used 2050 as the future year looking forward, and we actually looked at several different growth scenarios, including a high growth scenario that was brought into the analysis of the corridors. The answer is the first part of that. Sorry, the second part is how does it look forward, and how do we get to how it's being used? Is density does play a large part into transit usage, but we also know that what makes it attractive is the frequency, so that you don't have a long wait time in between. This is also an area where technology can come into play, of being able to have real-time information available to riders so that they know the timing of when a vehicle would be coming to their stop, to also try to reduce some of that wait time. So the building off of how do you advance the systems and how do you increase frequency, even if there are areas that aren't quite ready for that increased frequency, that's a place where technology could be used to step in so that people can plan their trips better.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Ms. Ricks?
Yes, sir.
We just moved out, the pilot project got moved out another 3 months?
No. Its completion date is April 2027. They're doing phase 1 and phase 2 combined. I think originally we talked about December, but because of the materials, we'll have everything done by April 2027.
So that is moved out 3 months?
Yes, sir. But they ordered the material. They're going to start installation pretty soon. But the testing and complete certification will be done by April 2027.
I'd appreciate, would have been good that we got an update that they were running behind on this project.
Yes,
this has been going on for multiple years.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is with regard to this and implementation, the evaluation mechanism as projects are developed and added to this is a living plan. The evaluation mechanism, how often are we evaluating, and how do we know that those items that have been implemented across the municipalities that we're going across are working?
That would be in the next implementation phase of the measures, exactly of how it would be done. So this is laying the framework of, how to make those decisions, but in the implementation phase, developing the performance measures to evaluate the projects in more detail, and then also understand how they work after implementation.
Thank you for that. And after that implementation stage, the mechanism for evaluation, as we have laid out these kind of abstracts in terms of where we're trying to go, the evaluation piece is important because I want to see how do we know, and this is beyond this board, into boards in the future, if us investing this money into the plan and implementation has been effective, and what is the difference? And also kind of, as we talk about that next stage, what are we measuring against? So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you. And just to add on to what Commissioner Powell was saying, as I understood it, we want this to be a living plan so that, in the future, Boynton Beach decides to have a land use change for 1,000 new units, or Palm Springs does a complete, renovation of a strip mall that turns into something else. That, with the buy-in, as long as we get the buy-in of all the cities to continue to participate in this, when they make those changes, it would go in, and then that would also kind of spread out and help the future planning of the corridors make sense based on changes that aren't under us, because we don't have zoning or land use changes for any of our cities, but when they make those changes, it would activate something in the system, right?
I can give a very general, non-engineering explanation for that. So we always have to start with the plan. The plans has those list of prioritized corridors. Within those list of corridors, there are advocacy for different projects in there. That once the plan, if the board sees fit, is ready for adoption, we will be working on the implementation plan and strategy. What I would envision, it would be a various subcommittee. The board will probably have the final say on the roles and responsibility and the makeup of those subcommittees. It could be regionally based subcommittees, just like we did with the core team, North, Central, South, West, and the Glades. Then these projects can be broken up into those subcommittees for evaluation and coordination between the cities and the stakeholders, and special districts as well for the areas that don't have cities. Once that is evaluated, there could be a funding subcommittee, there could be a transit bike ped subcommittee, and also future-proof subcommittees. These policies are for cities and municipalities to adopt because there are areas which there are no critical mass for some of these proposal. The policy kicks in, and then, we have cities that are dealing with, we have been dealing with the last 5 years or more for golf course conversion, live local, places where they'll be redeveloped. Again, this will be for the next 25 years. That's why it's so important when I said there's two needs: what the projects are now, but also policy that are set in place that can be approved by you with some coordination with the municipalities. The cities can then take some of these and opt in and opt out on some of these policies and make it and put into their own comp plan and zoning. Back to the land use question as well. Most of these, since we can't dictate to the cities what their density and intensity, those are local decisions. However, it is likely that within these corridors, that's where you would want to orient your higher intensive projects and uses. Don't know if that helps out.
I would also add that the database tool would actually serve well in this purpose of having a reference point for cities to be able to look at what are the projects in those adjacent corridors to the proposed recommendations, and do those projects satisfy the change in that increase. So this is where the tool becomes a valuable reference point, and to be able to work through some of those decisions, and are there projects that are addressing that need, or does it need to be something different based on those land use changes?
And this is maybe a little bit off, but we just talked about it yesterday. The what did we vote? The opportunity zones. So it's not part of this, but when we have this tool, and for future investors who want to come in and maybe redevelop certain areas, like that, also this tool could kind of help with the future planning of that. If they want to invest in these areas, we're also already looking at the future network, the roads network, the movement of people for that. It's just something that occurred to me because we just voted on it yesterday. Yeah. But it would also tie in to the future. It's not all about, westward expansion. I'm sure you're happy to hear that. But, the infill and the redevelopment that could happen in, the interior parts. Yeah. So, okay. Thank you.
And the opportunity zones is a layer, if those boundaries are known, that could be included into the database as well for a reference point.
I think we get those official in January. Is that what, like the decisions, in the fall? Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
So I just want to jump off of what the Vice Mayor said. This information will be available to the public in the fall of 2020, tell me, 6, 7, 8?
So it's available. Yeah, the full plan is available online right now for the public. What we envision is that once this phase is done, there'll be some transitional for staff to start learning how to really man this database and train us to make sure that we know how to as cities have their comp plan and zoning, we need to know how to put that into this database as well. So what you have is a pretty robust database of all the municipalities projects and the special districts projects.
So that if a city or county wants to develop a certain area, this database that you are creating now is available to us this fall 2026.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Look forward to it, especially in the Ag Reserve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. So I have a few concerns, and moving back to, were you aware that we used to have a frequency model in Palm Beach County when it came to PalmTran?
No.
And then a prior board went to coverage, right? And now we're going back to frequency, trying to find something that works for a lot of money. So what guarantees do we have that going back to a frequency model will actually improve this? And to Commissioner Marino's point, for the few people, we have, a lot of people in Palm Beach County, and out of 1.5 million, roughly 10,000, give or take, use this. How do we know this will improve our traffic flow?
Yeah, there's no guarantees on any of it, but I think the idea is to target those areas with the highest need and implement the frequency on the highest use areas first, and then build out from there, and understanding where and how people are traveling. That is part of what we looked at, is where are those high demand connection points, and focusing it there first. So it's not a full coverage piece, but it's targeting specific routes that would need the frequency first.
And for 175 million a year, do we have a target number of getting people to? I mean, from, let's say, between 10 and 15,000 a year or using PalmTran, what would the target number be of people using PalmTran?
I would defer that again to the transit development plan that's underway, of how they're assessing it and how we incorporate that to this.
And if I may, Mayor, a lot of it also is an educational component, and hopefully with the transit plan, there is some robust educational component to show that transit could be for everyone, not just the folks, that may not have the car, but it could encourage people to save time if these can be frequent enough to get them to the places where they want for work, play, and other means. But I think that's very important as well, to try to make sure we connect that. The plan is flexible enough to include some of those information, just like we did with the safety action plan. Yeah.
And do we have goals for the amount of people we want using this?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
The plan does have performance measures. Draft performance measures are in the plan as well. And we aren't proposing for the quick wins to convert the entire system to high frequency. What we're saying is there are certain routes that have been identified for higher frequency. So as pilot projects, to go ahead and implement higher frequency on a couple of them. So not converting the entire system.
Moving on to my next concern, quick wins. Outside of, let's say, increased traffic signalization, I don't really see any quick wins for the Western communities here. What would you say are the quick wins for them?
I did it again. One of the things we heard at the Belglade public meeting, we had probably dozens of petitions submitted for transit service. So South Bay, Pahokee, Belglade all submitted petitions to either reinstitute fixed route service or expand the existing Go Glade service. So that would be a quick win under the transit category, would be to go ahead and implement either higher frequency or expanded the micro transit service.
Okay, let me be more specific. The Midwestern communities.
Roadway connections. If I may, there are some roadway connection options. We heard also there are, the request to look for alternatives to those roadway connections. And the plan has some.
Again, any of these quick wins, what are specifically going to help the Midwestern communities?
We're going to pull up the information specifically for it.
And Madam Mayor, in the meantime, if I can add to your point, Currently, we have about 2% people who are traveling, or less than 2% on Palm Tran. Other 2% are on bikes and walking, so that's about 4% mode split. From 2014 to 2024, the mode split has gone down actually a little bit, but it's
What's
kinda
gone
split.
down?
Mode split, meaning that still you have 96% people driving.
96% of people driving, 2% in buses
Walking, biking,
or
and 2%
so on, and then
bus.
2% in biking, walking,
correct.
so on. Thank you.
For the Western community, Madam Mayor, there's a profile for the entire district, for your district, with projects. So it's about 300 projects in there, and so there will be several candidate projects for quick wins within the profile of the western area.
And if we haven't gotten there yet, then we'll wait to go over those. It's just in these 6 boxes you have listed here, it wasn't clear to me which ones were going to help. Okay, and I have a couple lights on. Commissioner Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I got a few questions that have risen to the surface, and maybe somebody here could answer them. The mayor indicated that 10,000 people are using Palm Tran. Is that correct?
It's still 2%.
Anybody here, or?
We do have ridership numbers in the report. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please? 10,000 riders on Palm Tran?
Yes, the mayor indicated about 10,000 people are using Palm Tran.
Each route is going to have its own ridership. You know, you're going to have daily ridership per route, and then you have your annual, your quarterly riderships. So we have documented all of the existing riderships from the National Transit Database, and we have all that data. So yeah, 10,000 sounds very low. I would think that Palm Tran is doing much higher than 10,000 trips.
Mayor, is Patrick, can you answer that, or can I have Palm Tran?
I'll get you that information in a second. Text him right now.
Okay. Is that okay, Mayor?
Oh, of course. No, and please explain the difference for everyone, the difference between ridership and users.
And in addition to that, let me say this. I think, so for me, I know we're doing a countywide transportation master plan, right? Here's the deal. And when I asked about evaluation and after implementation, is also when it is not my intention that we downgrade or negate public transportation, because I believe that it's a tool in the toolbox, right? Case in point, I come out of Fort Lauderdale or Miami, jump off the plane, jump on Tri-Rail, get to Tri-Rail, Mangonia Park Station, and my last mile is either Uber or figure out taxi, or somebody picks me up. I would like to jump on Palm Tran to get to my house if it's convenient. However, in other places that I've gone, we can go to DC, we can jump right on the train and get to the middle of the city if we want. I want to make sure that we're not negating our public transportation by saying, well, only a few people use it. How can we encourage use? How can we increase ridership and make that a tool in the toolbox? Because we can take cars off the road if we can increase the number of people who are riding. I live pretty close to the downtown. It would be easier for me to jump on the train, not train. I live in Palm Beach County, but if I can jump on Palm Tran to get here, it would be easier for me, because if you have not noticed, gas prices are over $4 a gallon, and that's, for most people, that's extremely expensive. So I really do want to get to the bottom of how many people are using Palm Tran, and also, for me, not negating what the rest of the board wants, I want to increase ridership so that we're making sure that when we supplement Palm Tran, because from my understanding, when I was even studying planning, every public transportation system is using public dollars, federal dollars or state dollars. So can somebody tell me what the ridership is, and how can this plan work together so we can increase ridership, decreasing the number of cars on the road, and making sure that everything flows?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Lynn Johnson, Interim Director for PalmTran. So yes, as far as ridership, we had 9.8 million trips last year for fixed route and paratransit total, system-wide. For unique riders, we did present to the board a few months ago the study, and we estimate to have about 25,000 unique riders for our system.
So that was 25,000 unique riders.
Correct.
I sit corrected.
And I wanted to also offer a point of clarification as far as the frequency model earlier. In 2018, when the RPM was brought to the board then chose to continue a coverage model. We have never had a frequency model in Palm Beach County.
And forgive me, we had a different director who told me something different after being elected, was that we had a frequency and then we went to a coverage model, and now we're going back to a frequency.
There might have been a misunderstanding. The board was given the option between a frequency and a coverage model, and the board selected to continue with the coverage model. We have never had a frequency model in Palm Beach County.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
For whom? Excuse me. Commissioner Weiss has a question for you.
Also, Mayor, Lynn, is it okay? Lynn, how long have you, in addition to this, how long have you been at PalmTran?
I've been at PalmTran for almost 4 years, with the county 7 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My question, so when you quote 25,000 riders, does that include connections?
It does, yes, for paratransit and fixed route users.
Okay, so what is it for fixed route?
For fixed route, it's about 15, 17,000 users.
Unique users?
Unique users, yes.
And do you know the frequency of their use, or is that just?
The frequency of the fixed route riders?
Mm-hmm.
That's harder to track, of course. But I think the bulk of our riderships are, you're going to be taking about 2 trips per day to and from work. Most people that use our system, it's their livelihoods. They need to use the system.
So when you
daily
say that,
trips, absolutely.
Yeah, those are daily
Yes,
users.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You may. Oh, excuse me. Commissioner Marino was first.
Thank you. If you go back to page 11, it basically gives, and this is to the mayor's point, it basically gives a number of projects. At the end of the day, if we go to the end of this presentation, we as a group with the subcommittees that you're suggesting need to prioritize these projects. Is that the point at which we're going today? Yes. Somebody answer.
It would be helpful, yes.
Okay, so in actuality, you don't have this is project 1, this is project 2, this is project 3. This is a collection of projects from all of the municipalities, the special taxing districts, the community redevelopment agencies. And quite frankly, if the number is, so it says municipalities 2,268, community redevelopment agencies 715, and water control, drainage, and conservancy districts 621. In the 2,268, does that include the 715 and the 621, or is it in addition?
There are overlapping projects between
There are overlapping projects. Yes. Okay, so basically we're looking at a total of close to 2,200 projects.
Yes.
And it is up to this board and whatever subcommittees and whatever folks that we have partner with us to pick what's important and work down from there. Is that where we're going today? We're not picking projects today. What we're doing today is making a motion to continue the efforts so that in several months from now, we have a final project that says, we're going to go to the public and we're going to ask them to somehow support us in a dedicated funding source, and we're going to use this as a living document for that source, correct?
Yes, and the 21 high need corridors are the projects within those corridors are the ones that have been identified as the countywide significant projects to carry forward. But all of the projects that have been put out into the universe, if you will, are included in that master database. But from a priority perspective, we're emphasizing the 21 high need corridors.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, I hope that helps your question.
Yes, it does. And I guess just to the point of, and what she had said, so we are going to, do we have a list of which projects would provide the most amount of relief of traffic? In that order?
We do not have them ordered. We have because there are different modes doing different things. So if you want focus specifically on what would improve traffic conditions, it would be on, again, those high need corridors, looking at the lens where we did the analysis specifically on the traffic element of it, and we can pull out those projects based on those high need corridors.
I think that would be the most important. Which projects provide the most amount of traffic relief? Commissioner Flores, you're recognized.
So I want to talk about this in a second, but I do want to go back to that 15,000 to 17,000 daily riders, unique riders. That's 15 to 17,000 cars that are off the streets every single morning as we're going to work and every single afternoon as we're coming back home. And that matters, because the whole reason we're doing this transportation master plan is to alleviate our commutes on a daily basis. So I wanted to highlight that. I want you guys to finish the presentation, because I think I interrupted with the whole PalmTran. We went into the rabbit hole. But I would like you guys to finish. But I also want to clarify something. Today we're adopting a plan, right? That's what they're asking us to do today, is to adopt a plan, which, by the way, was presented to me about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't had the full time to digest all 2,000 pages. I've tried to go through the majority of my stuff. I have a lot of issues with where we're at today, and we're going to discuss that after we do comments from the public. But when you're talking projects, you're not really talking projects. You're really talking, you have identified a problem, and we now have to figure out how we're going to solve that project, because you're not providing specific solutions or projects of what we have to do. It's for up to us to pick from one of these on how we're going to fix that, correct?
Yes, it's
Okay,
a decision
thank you.
framework.
So let's continue with if you don't mind, Mayor.
Yeah, and because I did forget to mention this at the beginning, we do have a hard stop today at 11:15.
Mayor? Okay. Yes, you sent out a letter requesting a 2.5-hour lunch. My suggestion would be that if you need to leave to go to another appointment, we continue. We have a full room today, and I would, if the board would so choose, the vice mayor was kind enough to sit in yesterday as mayor. I think we should continue this discussion. I don't think we should take a 2.5-hour lunch break.
Unfortunately, I do have a speaking engagement that is across, and because my district is way out west, that I am trying to get to. And this is important enough that I absolutely do want to be here
I
for
don't
this.
agree. I appreciate you having to be a speaker today, but I don't think that in the middle of this day we need to take a 2-hour lunch break. This is important. So I would move that if the mayor needs to leave, we continue the meeting with the vice mayor running the meeting, and then when you get back, that you just take over the gavel again.
Is this,
I mean, I think it's certainly reasonable for the board to decide if it wants to continue in the absence of one of the members.
if you want to do that?
I would be willing to do that. We have a room full of people that I think we should consider the public.
I will call and cancel my speaking engagement. Thank you. Please proceed.
So back to the toolbox, the intent here is a
Excuse me,
toolbox-
Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, because I know the public is watching this, I think it's important that this is really, I know we call it a plan, but this is really a framework. It's not a plan. because there's no costs associated with these projects. They're not prioritized by, the cost-benefit analysis. None of that work has been done yet. So really, this is a framework as opposed to what people, I think, would expect would be a plan with projects, identified costs, and who's responsible for them, and those sorts of things. And I just, want to be clear to people, we call it a plan, but it's really just a framework of how we move forward. And so.
We'll explain a little further towards the end for that, how that transitions in.
No problem. The toolbox provides, again, as Twee was stating, an opportunity for the cities to incorporate these different items for their use and how they carry their projects forward. So it includes the goals and objectives and performance measures. It demonstrates the project screening and the prioritization process, and reflecting on those high-need corridors. We have design principles for use and carrying projects forward based on the type of context sensitivity for the land uses and different character needs, and comprehensive plans and land development regulations reflected within the CTMP policies and that could be adopted. Also looking forward to the continued intergovernmental coordination and the process that takes. And then I think to some of the questions, an implementation, tracking and reporting process for the plan moving forward with the framework. So this is just, again, to highlight some of those design principles that were brought into the plan. There is a collection of different types of typical sections based on roadway widths and the character of the area that it's within that could be used as projects are being carried forward, and having this in the toolbox to be able to understand what types of designs could actually be implemented within those corridors that fit the context of the needs of the community. This is the project database that we have been talking about. Everything that was submitted is within this project database and is searchable by the different project categories, which municipality that it's within, or other agency boundaries, the source plan that it has come from, and so you can select it. There's also an ability, again, to upload projects to it as more work is being done to keep this as a living use project database. And then the policy options, again, just reflecting back on some of those policy pieces that were discussed earlier. These are options that can be incorporated by the different municipalities through their own adoption process, and how they may want to incorporate these different recommendations as they develop and move some of their own plans forward in reference and having a consistent policy option. The next steps from here is really focusing on the implementation program and how to proceed from this framework into taking more action. So this lays out the implementation framework and how to proceed with some timelines associated with that. Really thinking within the next year on the implementation program itself, how to create program leads, working through the intergovernmental agreements on carrying it forward. Also looking at support and lead roles for how the partners coordinate on the implementation pathway, and developing a administrative program for how to coordinate and carry this forward, continuing with the different briefings, having a project readiness review to be able to take projects that are listed and see where they are when funding is available, and how to continue to prioritize projects out of the candidate list. And then, again, in that tracking and outcome piece, looking at an overall program structure and how to advance projects in the next several years as well. And just a wrap up here, really again back to the idea of the framework of this plan, being able to have delivery solutions for carrying forward the intensity of projects, prioritizing opportunities along those 21 high need corridors, looking to modernize and optimize the countywide traffic signals as a quick win, thinking about emerging technologies, mobility and transit technologies, and how to be prepared for those, not just from a policy perspective, but understanding how those will come into the market, and positioning for future transportation funding as the next part of the implementation process. So the idea is a framework for a path to action of how to deliver this plan, and again, providing that decision-making framework between all of the different partners to bring candidate projects forward, utilize the toolbox for the municipalities, and develop a policy framework that is able to be adopted and carried forward, and looking towards the first steps of that implementation program to set the action forward and keep the momentum.
So back to me again. Again, these are very brief summarized slides. So we went using the 3 months that we were given by the board. We re-engaged the stakeholders on August 6th. The last meeting, we presented to the MCFAC and Issues Forum, and that resulted in these 4, I paraphrased the recommendations just for brevity. Mayor Hamar from the Village of Palm Spring is a member of MCFAC, and he's here to say a few words, as well as some other members of IPARC and MCFAC. I believe IPARC 2.0 Plus, which is the expanded version of the Intergovernmental Coordination Program. Mayor Merritt, would you? There.
Oh, good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Let me start off by saying I am the mayor, but it is of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, and I'm proud to be that. I'm also the Vice Chair of MCFIC, which is a Multi-Jurisdictional Issues Coordination Forum Executive Committee. Rolled right off my tongue. And I'm here to present the Countywide Transportation Master Plan recommendations that were approved by both the MCFIC and ratified by the Issues Forum. I think the CTMP plan, and among other things, a framework really important, is a bold and major step in the right direction. You know, for the first time, Palm Beach County now has a shared framework for taking a look at roadways and transit and technology, land use, safety, and mobility as one interconnected system. Just as important is the extraordinary collaboration among the county, the cities, transportation agencies, and the community partners and the public, certainly, that has taken place to prepare this. The CTMP is properly described as a framework. It is that. It's a statement of possibilities and a direction. It is not yet a plan, as was stated so correctly. It's not a construction program. It doesn't have funding associated with it. There are no mandates in it. It identifies the 21 high-need corridors, organizes more than 2,000 projects, which is the first time that we've actually had a baseline like that to work from. It provides a practical structure and a toolkit to optimize, expand, and transform. And we could use other terms, certainly, to identify those categories. But I think what's really important to note is that the CTMP study also makes one point very, very clear. There is no silver bullet. There is no silver bullet. Transit can improve mobility, but it requires supporting investments, and it requires a realistic land use coordination. Network improvements that can be made with road widening and various other things can help, but it will not eliminate congestion. Technology can improve operation, but it must be specifically targeted at certain locations, and then it must be measured for its effectiveness and adjusted after that. MCFIC's position is not in opposition to the CTMP, nor is it a request to stop what we're doing or to restart or anything like that. But on the 6th of August, MCFIC met and unanimously recommended that the board receive the CTMP, but not yet adopt it. This will allow the IPARC 2.0, which is our our technical arm to complete its technical review of the policies and the high-need corridor solutions before MCFIC actually makes a final recommendation about adoption. That position was subsequently ratified by the issues forum that is representative of all 39 municipalities, as well as participating special districts, and of course the school district. The county staff recommends now, or is asking that the board adopt the plan before this review is completed. MCFIC respectfully believes this would place the decision ahead of the multi-jurisdictional review process that's worked so well for us so far. We believe that the county staff can begin defining the implementation program, which is clearly the next step, identifying some quick wins, and then developing the proposed scope of additional services without the formal adoption of the current version of the CTMP. By the way, that scope should be developed collaboratively with MCFIC, IPARC 2.0, the Issues Forum, transportation partners. And of course, the Palm Beach County City Managers Association should also continue to play a key role as they have up to this point. The implementation plan is the next step, and perhaps the most important. This plan should be thorough and comprehensive. It should clearly address many things: project priorities, agency responsibilities, capital and recurring operating costs, funding resources, return on investment performance measures, public reporting, and of course, community acceptance. So our recommendation is pretty straightforward. First, that the Board of County Commissioners receive the CTMP today. Second, that we complete the expedited technical review. And third, that we return with a collaborative implementation plan and a final recommendation on adoption. And in closing, let me just say that I believe that we can agree that no single government entity or agency can solve our transportation challenges alone today or in the future. With continued partnership, the CTMP can become that durable, living, implementable blueprint for better transportation, safer transportation throughout Palm Beach County as we experience this explosive growth that is not likely to abate anytime in the future. So with that said, completes my comments and a representation of a MCFIC position. I'd be glad to answer any questions if anybody has them.
We have a few lights. Commissioner Marino?
My light was on just to remind folks, when you are looking for this information, there is a specific website. The website is pbcmoves.com. So if you're trying to find out where everything is listed, that's where it's listed. I just wanted to put that in the record. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Flores, you're recognized.
Mayor Hamara, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for lending your voice to our municipalities. I appreciate that. As we underwent this master plan, to me, it was always a priority that we involved our local municipalities and government agencies because, as you mentioned, we can't do this all by ourselves. It has to be a collaborative effort, and we all have to agree, and sometimes agree to disagree. I think you put this in perspective. I think we should receive this today. I think we should also have enough time to digest it and to come back and provide input, because at no point has this board provided input. We are just being asked today to adopt something that we have not really provided much input to, at least as a body, as all seven collective coming together to provide input. So I agree with what you're saying. I do have a hard question for you. What will happen when we disagree? I want to make sure that moving forward, there might be something that you recommend, that your group recommends, that you see it one way, but maybe this board sees it differently. And the reason I'm asking is because as we move forward, we go down this path, there has to be a way for us to come together and work our disagreements. And what I don't want to happen is that it becomes county against whatever other agency, municipality, whatever it is. We have to work together, and it has to be a way to resolve conflict between, because there will be conflicts. And when we address such a large magnitude, and it's county-wide, we're going to step on each other's toes. So I want to make sure that when we do have disagreements, we still stay at the table, we don't get mad at each other, and we come up with solutions. Even though we're not happy, sometimes we have to compromise. So my question to you is, I know it's loaded, but do I have a commitment from the municipalities and MCFEC that we will in fact work together? And by the way, boards change quickly, you know this. Within one election, the board changes. So I want to make sure that we have a commitment from MCFEC that you guys will stay at the table and that we will work collaborative moving forward.
Well, thank you for that. So the Intergovernmental Coordination Program, which actually is the basis for MCFIC, it's the basis for the Issues Forum, it's the basis for IPARC, which has been in existence a long time. The reason we're talking about IPARC 2.0 is this is a new version of something that's been around for decades, literally decades, maybe 30 years, used mostly to deal with comp plan kind of conflicts, one municipality to another and that type of thing. And it's worked pretty well in that regard. We've extended it now to include something as big and complicated as the Transportation System Plan and the execution of it. It provides a forum to hear each other, and members that sign up for it agree that they will listen to each other. They will base their decisions upon the data as is presented, which is different from any other opportunity we've ever had before. It is. It's worked well to get us this far, but this is the early stages. It really is. This is the easier part. This hasn't gotten to a specific roadway with a widening or some other issue like the ones you're going to be dealing with today. Do I think that a process and a framework like what we are talking about right now will resolve all of these issues to everyone's satisfaction? No. That's called democracy. We're not going to walk away all happy. But one thing I can walk away with, if it is an outcome that has an effect on the village of Royal Palm Beach, is I won't walk away until I have a substantial set of evidence to support the group's decision that I can then take back to my constituents and say, this was not my position, but here's the argument that's offered. And sometimes that's the best you can do. But right now, I don't even have a mechanism for that. There's no way to even do that. This provides the opportunity for the framework to arrive, to have those conversations based upon data, based upon analysis, based upon modeling, which, by the way, is a real key to this. This is a system. The only way to really consider the different possibilities are to be able to iteratively run the possible mixes. And that's what this will provide, is a framework for doing that. And then if we continue the Intergovernmental Coordination Program structure or some modification of it, we will have the way to come together and have those conversations. And then even if we disagree, we can walk away having felt that we've been heard. And by the way, if I don't feel like I've been heard, you might get something less than my full cooperation going forward. So being heard puts us in a different position than not being heard. And right now, there's no mechanism except what we've just done for that to actually happen. I see great potential benefit, but we are in the early stages of it. So, but thank you for that question.
Vice Mayor Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor Hamara, for being here and speaking on MCFEC. I'm actually get to serve on the board with you, along with Mayor Marino's on that. And I think it's important that this MCFEC makes a little bit of like an appearance to the public, because it's quite confusing. If you look at our website, I mean, it's been this tiny little organism that's existed for a long time. Never really, I don't think, been used like this. But it has great potential to do exactly that, to have a way to settle disagreements on this. But before we get to the disagreements, we sort of need to get to everyone agreeing on this moving forward. And I think we're almost there with what we're doing now. And your request for us to receive and file and let it go to IPARC 2.0, there, I had a couple of conversations. I did want like not necessarily a hard date, but not just this open-ended, yeah, sure, take it to them, because we've been working towards closing this out. Do you have, I'm not asking for a specific date, but are we talking a month? Or are we talking How long are we talking?
So fortunately, I understood that, and actually I could anticipate that question because if I was sitting there, I would ask it. And my response to that is not having thoroughly coordinated this. I would say this is not something that could be done by the end of this month or even the end of next month. But I do think by the end of, or by December, let's just say the end of the year, I think we could definitely have completed. And as someone said, a 2,000-page document is hard to get through for any of us, but I think it's necessary to have a full understanding. To complete that kind of a review in a collaborative way, which is really the key to this. Not any one group doing that review and concluding a logical set of positions and making recommendations, but the collaborative approach, which is what we use to get to where we are right now. I'd say by December we would be able to do that.
Okay, and I mean, I guess that would be for, the board would need to discuss that as well, because I know we're close, but we do want to have the full buy-in of everyone, so I would be in support of doing the receive and file. I don't know about the timing on it, that's a little far. And Commissioner Weiss, he's at the end of his term in November, so not to speak for him, but I think I would like for him to at least still be here with us before he terms out, for us to bake this in, because he's been a big part of it. I'll let him speak for himself on it. But getting the city's buy-in and getting MCVEC and getting all of this baked out a little more, I'm good with that, because it is so important that the cities buy in, even the school board and the state and the MPO and all the different entities that are part of this. We need them to buy into what we're doing here, because it's a lot about policies. And it's not necessarily project specific. Some of it's a lot of projects, but in the future, what's our policy together moving forward? And it's not always going to have the county involved. I mean, it could have bordering cities with each other. If they have, someone allows a big development or something comes in with a lot of traffic, and I talk about Boynton and Delray. I think they actually have a road that splits. Half of the road is in each other's jurisdiction. So we have a number of cities that have to coordinate with each other, and this plan will also help with them. We're not necessarily always even going to be at the table for these projects. So getting the cities to buy, and League of Cities, I don't know, has the League of Cities weighed in on this as well? I know they've had meetings on it, but moving forward with MCVEC, I think is the right way to go, and I would be in support of that. But the timeline, I'm a little uncertain of. Okay.
Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah, and thank you, Mayor, for being here. I understand your request, and I think it's reasonable. I would like to be here for the adoption, but that's not, based on the timing you guys are talking about, that's not going to be possible. But I think it's important that we include our partners in this. We started out this project, as I was reminded, it really was 2 years ago. I had a hard time believing it, but yeah, it's been 2 years. And the whole, when we started this discussion, it was all about everybody coming together in this county, working together to put a plan together. This is a framework, as you said so eloquently, but we need, we're going to need to get those details sorted out, but we also need the support of our municipal partners, the other agencies that are involved, and to give everybody an opportunity. And I think timing, as much as we'd like to have the ability to control the timeline, that's not always the case. And so I think the flexibility is a good thing. And I do appreciate what staff's done. And I have a number of questions and comments. I want to reserve those till after I hear from the public, because I'm sure they have lots to say too. But I really appreciate you being here and all the work you and all the other members have done on this, including. So
thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for being here. If you would, we have 4 more slides, and so I'm going to ask we complete those, and then we'll take public comment.
Sure. If you could move to the next slide. Actually, the next 2 slides, we can even skip to the next one. If the board chooses, again, whether we adopt a plan now or in the future, there are some things that we can be doing concurrent with the decision. We would like to also move forward to the implementation part of this, because we can do this seamlessly, because the core team and staff has envisioned, as part of the scope of work, to also have an implementation plan. So task 15 allows us to do this for additional services for WSP to continue to help us map out the implementation program and how that's going to interface with all the database that we have and the project that's in those corridors. Next slide, please. So this is just a brief idea of some of the additional services for the implementation phase. It is not going to be like what you invested in $1 million, but there are certain things that needs to have additional modeling run for some of those projects, that the 21 corridors. There's also maintaining the online project portal. Some of that staff can do, and we're doing that right now, transitioning the database for this phase to the county's hands. We own that. That is ours to keep and to keep moving. The website needs to be also maintained either by the sub-consultants or staff. So we're prepared to do that as well, working with OTI, Office of Technology and Innovation. There's also planning support for policy adoption, as Mayor Hamar, Mayor, I was going to say also Representative Palm Springs, so I got both of them together. But as part of this policy decision for the board, the intergovernmental government coordination element in the county's comprehensive plan will need to be updated, because right now there is the only thing that references IPARC is really for coordination of comp plan. There were efforts back in the 90s to have a planning council, but that was not realized by the public. This is a different time. We're more collaborative now, and that would be worth looking at other things other than comp plan amendment coordination, transportation, economic development, housing, whatever the topic may be. There's also, as I said before, subcommittees that could vet these things out and go through some of the funding, cost benefit, and design development, so that by the time it gets to you in the next few months, that could be something that could be on an item for the public to know where it may not be the project in their jurisdiction or their community, but it could affect them. So it would be helpful to know and vet those out for the cost benefit and how that kind of get prioritized for the future ballot, should that be the decision of the board. Also, selfishly, as staff, we would also like to make sure that we have a path forward for the unincorporated projects, including, any kind of comprehensive plan revision that will need to be done. It's not just a transportation element or intergovernmental coordination, it's also our land use and also our utilities and some of the administrative elements that needs to be fixed, as well as the cost feasible plan that we would need to have for the 2040 cost feasible plan. And we're doing our EARS amendment, and then that could also, some of those quick wins could also make it to the EAR or as a separate phase with the CTMP implementation. Again, these are all transitional plan, and then further along the line, there could be assistance with advocacy for grant funding or helping us with grant. We have a very, very great department that handles that for the county, but this project specific, it may be helpful for us when we go to Tallahassee or wherever to advocate for these projects. So with that, again, this is a living document. Adoption, whenever the board feels the need to, that is up to the board. Often the board do not take our advice, and we will be able to pivot and do whatever the board chooses to do. Next slide, please. And here's some of the takeaways that reemphasize what Emily had said before. This will capture and it may accelerate those transportation projects. If you don't make it to the top 21, if there's developers that's willing to help and cost share, and you're the number 50, you could actually accelerate that as well. We're not discounting any of the projects that don't make it to the 21. But this will help prioritize funding for the highest need corridors, which will help alleviate congestion throughout the county. And then again, modernize and be prepared for the future and position ourselves for future funding. So with that, we are recommending adoption whenever the board feels that it's necessary. And also, as part of the motion, we would also like to have a resolution that would encourage, like we did, municipalities to collaborate in all the partnering agency towards the implementation of the countywide transportation master plan. And the third motion would be for the board to consider to direct staff to look into these scope for the implementation plan and come back within 30 days, which will be September 24th or at a later date. That concludes my presentation. Any questions? We're here to answer.
We're going to move to public comment. Thank you.
All right, we have 15 speakers. We have 2 podiums. Please line up one after the other. I believe we're going to be given
2 minutes.
2 minutes to speak. I have Amelia Sheffield, Elizabeth Acamundo, Sue Loisel, Mayor Jeff Amaro, Nina Corning, Rick Basilotti.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Amelia Sherfield. I am the Program Director with the Mobility Coalition. We first want to start with thanking Twee for a long career with the county and congratulating her. We also want to thank the county, WSP, everyone involved in creating the countywide transportation master plan. We support the work that is being done. We support the commission receiving this today, support continuing collaboration, review, and partnership with the cities. We think that this work is very important in keeping our county connected, safe, and affordable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Sue Loisel, and I live in Loxahatchee. Thank you for holding a public meetings and giving residents an opportunity to input on the countywide transportation master plan. That public input is important because transportation decisions are not just lines on a map. They affect our families, our daily commutes, our emergency access, and our safety. I respectfully ask that future meetings be shared fairly across the county, especially in the western communities, including the Acreage, Westlake, Loxahatchee, and Wellington, where major road projects and rapid growth directly affect residents. These meetings should be shared fairly so that communities most affected by major transportation plans have meaningful input and attend and ask questions and provide input and not be over a 40-minute drive to these community meetings. I also ask for clear input update on the proposed Okeechobee Boulevard extension west of Seminole Pratt Whitney Road towards Palm Beach aggregates. Where does this feasibility study stand? Why isn't it in this plan? What alternatives are being evaluated? What is the public input schedule? And when will the residents receive the findings? Please distinguish that roadway study from a separately approved water main design along the proposed corridor. Also, how will the lifting of the restricted covenant, a vote you will be making today, impact development west of the L8? More importantly, how will the county projects, large communities that only have one practical way in and out, a crash, a fire, a flood, road closures, and can trap residents delay evacuations and prevent emergency vehicles from arriving quickly. The county should evaluate secondary access routes, possibly, emergency-only connections, evacuation capacity, intersection improvements, and whether fire rescue stations and equipment are positioned to meet the actual response times needed for these communities. I respectfully urge the county to bring the planning process directly to the people whose neighborhoods. One last comment. Please make sure that the Western communities
Thank you, ma'am.
and federal
Elizabeth
funds
Acamundo,
conscious.
please.
As a former grant writer over 20 years and elected official, TPO process in Miami-Dade County.
Ma'am, if you would, please send any questions that you have to my office, and we'll make sure to
Federal
respond
funds,
to them.
thank you.
Thank you so
It's
much.
going to cause for high density. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, staff. Thank you for your presentation. I am Elizabeth Acamundo. I'm the board president for Indian Trail Improvement District, and we submitted a letter, which I'm assuming you have all received, and I'd just like to read it into the record because we did not see it in the backup. This is regarding the adoption hearing of this countywide master transportation plan. The Board of Supervisors for Indian Trail Improvement District agrees with MCFAC Motion 1 and recommends that the Board of Commissioners do receive the countywide transportation master plan and allow MCFAC and iPark 2.0 to complete the review of the plan policies and the high-need corridor solution menus before MCFAC submits final recommendation. I think this is really important. This is a lot to digest for everyone, including our own engineers, and we do definitely have to prioritize what is going to be done and the order it's going to be done and how it's going to be financed. I agree with Ms. Loisel that just spoke. We requested on numerous occasions for meetings to be held in the western communities for the unincorporated area, and we had been turned down. So we would appreciate it moving forward if we are included. We are often considered the other or the taxing district, but we have 45,000 residents that have to be considered in this plan, and we are seeing the majority of the growth out in the western communities and in the unincorporated. And while we're not going to stop that growth, we have to plan wisely, and this is a great vehicle to do so, and I'm very happy to see that all the communities are working together. I think it's crucial for the interconnectivity that we're all going to need, so it's not a 2-hour trip to get down here to come to meetings. So thank you for your consideration and the consideration of the people in the western communities, and please keep in mind that we move to those communities for a reason, just like everybody moves to the city for a reason, and we want to hang on to our lifestyle. So thank you very much.
Pat, how many meetings have we had in the western communities?
Can you guys pull that slide back up? I think we had 2 distinct ones, 3, I'm counting 2 out of the, go ahead.
Waxahachie once.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
All right, I may have mispronounced this. Rich Vasalati, Nina Corning, Mary McNicholas, Linda Smith, Jim Knight, Anna Yansky, Carmencita Mitchell, Ivan Maldonado, Pia Scorin, Lisa Johnson, and Mr. Michael Bornstein.
I think he was first.
It doesn't matter, just...
Okay, all right. Nina Corning, and I live in Waxahachie Groves. I've spent quite a bit of attention to some of the traffic. I've had the city, the suburb, the rural hat on. Before I start, I would like you to be aware that Mayor Al-Raimi has sent you a objection this morning into your mailbox regarding Okeechobee and the 140th naming of it, etc. So I encourage you to look at that. So, given the fact that you say whether you call it a plan or a framework, when you have framework on a house, it is important that it is correct. 140th in Okeechobee does not exist, okay? This is something I brought up to Virginia, George Webb. I have brought this up over and over again. The county thinks Waxahachie Groves stops on E Road. I would technically not live in Waxahachie Groves if it was up to you guys. We are an agricultural, rural community. You're bisecting us or even quartering us. This framework has to be accurate. The Okeechobee extension, the thought of that makes my hair stand up, not as much as the 140th, but almost as much. We have to figure out other ways that we deal with different transects in the county. Urban designers are misnamed. They need to be something more than urban planners. They need to plan for the entire area. That includes the rural area. And they're not doing it well enough. There are transects in there, and yet the planning for the rural transects are not there. You have to realize that you're affecting everything else with these plans. The food, the water. You can't ignore these rural areas the way you are.
When you're talking about 140th, and I would like to speak with you more in my office, let's, I guess, talk offline, if you would. Please, Sasha. get with Sasha. Let's talk about that.
There is we've had a lawsuit and it was successful against these illegal connections.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Richard Vassalotti, a 31-year acreage resident, 30 years fire rescue. I know everybody on the board. It's good to be here in the Robert Weissman Governmental Center, as my children would call it, Papa's building. So the Indian Trail Improvement District, which I'm elected to, represents, like was said, 45,000 residents. We're 100 square miles, 37 square miles of living. We are 500 miles of roads. And I think you're going to hear from some Loxahatchee residents this morning. Our roads are not public. They're not private. They're district. As Westlake found out, you cannot connect freely to them. It's very important to keep in mind that also ITID taxpayers solely pay for their roads. As a special taxing district, and being unincorporated, we do not receive any additional fundings for our roads like cities do, except for maybe an occasional grant for safety reasons. Now, I was on the issues forum for the elected officials for the CTMP, and I do have some concerns. Number one, from December through June 5th, our meetings were canceled. As was stated, there was no info to provide. Yeah, Commissioner Marino, you picked up a giant book that shook the whole podium there when you sat it down. There's a lot of information in there. Also at the 6-5 meeting, Ms. Burl stated that the unincorporated areas are not getting the representation like cities are. Now, I'm not speaking for any other district, but I will speak on behalf of District 6, which I believe has had subpar to non-existent representation. You said there were 2 meetings. The very first meeting was for Loxahatchee with 2 days notice. The last meeting was in the Glades. ITID tried to put up a meeting for our residents and we were denied. We've had a history of very bad proposals for the acreage from our D6 commissioner, whether it was allowing 2 semis per property or trying to 5-lane the very best dirt road, equestrian horse trail in the acreage. Thank goodness none of that has happened. But like I said, there's a lot going on here. And at the last meeting, it was stated that nothing was set in stone. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but I do believe that this needs to be slowed, really needs to be looked at for the sake of everyone, thoroughly investigated and reviewed. And one last comment, as far as representation for D6, it was pointed out today.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
looking for hard winds
Thank
and
you.
a hard stop
Linda
at
Smith.
11:15. Thank you.
Linda Smith, Sierra Club, Jupiter, stuck in traffic again this morning. And I would like to ask you to announce time reductions at the start of the presentation. You already know how many cards. That might help some of this overrun. The traffic report, I believe, suggests an increase in sales tax. How about increasing developers' impact fees? Instead of taxing residents that just need to buy everyday things, how about additional impact fees along the corridors most impacted by this traffic, who benefits the most while creating more development? Deny any privately initiated amendments along the projected traffic corridors most impacted by congestion, or put a moratorium on those properties until the transportation network can catch up. Yes, increase buses, specifically EV buses. Stop the electric air taxi. This is a billionaire's dream, not an average citizen's dream. Let's get EV chargers and autonomous ground transportation. Sync the appropriate intersections now. This should be considered low-hanging fruit. Bus shelters should include planting of native trees to reduce temperatures and provide shade, more likely to get used. Public transit and rail service needs to be expanded where the density is and where it is going to be. I have been waiting decades for a tri-rail stop in Jupiter. When I worked, I often drove to Mangonia to ride Trailway and worked all along the way. It was fabulous. Now I travel mostly here. Yes, driving to Mangonia and then riding one stop to West Palm with a 15-minute walk to get here is not really acceptable. If there was a stop in Jupiter, I might even go to other events in other districts that are along the stops. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Jim Knight, 740 Havana Drive, Boca Raton, Florida. I want to thank the staff and everybody's time that they put into this, and I want to go backwards a little bit in time. Originally, when Tri-Rail was first thought about, it was originally just going to be a temporary train set while they widened I-95. I don't know if many people remember that, but it turned out to be a long-term thing, and it's working out quite well. But we have to be careful at the same time, because we look at Brightline, which is an incredible experience. If you got $50 or $80 to take the train every time, it's phenomenal. But for your regular commuter, it's not working, and if you look at their financials, they're not working too well either. So it's something we just have to take our time, work with. People are going to continue to want to live in Florida and South Florida in general, and it's just something we got to look at carefully, and I know you all do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Board. Appreciate the time. I'm Mary McNicholas, representing Indian Trail Improvement District, otherwise known as the other. Emily, I would appreciate if we could please put in the amount of time that Indian Trail Improvement District actually added and afforded to the input on this plan, instead of, as Elizabeth Alcomando said earlier, as opposed to being referred to as other districts. We are quite a large geographical and transportation issue. We do agree with MCFEC and would really appreciate you all, instead of approving or adopting this plan, we sincerely believe that at least 3 months, perhaps a status report in 3 months, until Commissioner Weiss, so Commissioner Weiss could be involved in like a status report or something, would probably be a little more practical. There's probably going to need to be 5 months of really true vetting on all of this. The vetting is needed because these communities go from urban to rural to urban to rural, and there are so many. As much of a great job as y'all have done, and this is a great first stab, there are so many inconsistencies between those entities that need to be ironed out. And as we're all going to work on compromise, as the mayor had stated, the bottom line is that realistically, 3 months is really a tough sell. So we would appreciate if you would at least receive it and let our technical experts go ahead and vet out the inconsistencies between these areas. As great a job as you have done, we appreciate if you would listen to MCFEC's recommendations. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Mayor Hamara, Carmen Sita Mitchell, Chairwoman of the Palm Trans Service Board. This is hard to do in 2 minutes, but I'll do my best. In 10 years of coming to these public meetings, both my own as well as the County Commission, I have talked about it over and over, the need for a dedicated funding source. Now, I have the utmost respect for this chamber and the people in it and all that you've done for us, but I started that conversation about the dedicated funding source, and I got it from the late Stanley Voice, who was the voice of transportation for the people, as well as Dwight Mattingly, the former chair of my board and president of the ATU. I have a problem with the fact that we spent $1 million on this report, and the best they could come up with for Palm Tran is shelters and some other nonsense. I got a commitment from the Westgate CRA to help with shelters and share the financial responsibility. So I need the 39 municipalities, as well as you all, our elected officials, to get the buy-in from the people about why we need a dedicated funding source. I've said over and over, transportation is the fiduciary responsibility of everybody in this county. Okay? That's how you get the buy-in, explaining to people how we can get cars off the road. Did anybody think about in 2050 what it looks like with our young people who are on the spectrum today in the schools that are using up the majority of Palm Trans service, which is why we have to keep coming back here to ask for money? Were they part of the study? I saw a couple of notices come out for public feedback, but they weren't really convenient because I go to everything. But that being said, is anybody from WSP, who I've seen at other conferences and other things around town and said, I'm available, has anybody who's been part of this study actually been on public transportation? Because all I hear about is the data and the paperwork. If you're not in the streets with the people who use it, then I feel like this whole thing has been just a foolish waste of money. That $1 million could have gone toward Palm Tran and some of the needs that we have. So please pardon my aggressive tone. Thank you, Commissioner Weiss, for all your service, and I look forward to talking to you all at another juncture.
Thank you.
All right, I have P.S. Scorin, I got Ivan Maldonado, and Lisa Johnson, and Michael Bornstein.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Pia Scorin. I'm speaking today because I live on Orange Grove Boulevard, and Orange Grove Boulevard is on the plan. Thank you, Commissioner Marino. Yes, I believe we need screening, more screening. I think we need to pay attention to the details, unintended consequences, and how they affect real people. Planning is good. My story. So one morning we woke up and Orange Grove Boulevard was a new entryway for the State Road 7 extension. Now we have traffic and trucks and speed bumps because of outsiders using our roads, because county and state did not complete the other legs of their road plan. 60th wasn't completed and State Road 7 wasn't extended to North Lake. Orange Grove Boulevard is carrying an undue burden of traffic. The agreement with the county was that there would be no truck traffic on Orange Grove Boulevard or Persimmon. Yet there are no signs on State Road 7 letting trucks know that. Once they make that turn, there's nowhere for them to go except straight on Orange Grove. Consequently, Orange Grove from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard east to State Road 7 has been destroyed by big truck traffic. And we are starting to see truck damage on Orange Grove Boulevard west of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to the 130th Street Canal. Orange Grove Boulevard is not a long road. It was not built for the level of traffic we are currently experiencing. We need signs that lead trucks to DOT standard roads, 60th Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, before the western part of Orange Grove is in as bad a shape as the eastern part. Because of the other planned roads were to carry most of the traffic, the maintenance was not contemplated for that traffic level. And now we're being asked to belly up for some money now to fix those roads, which we should not have to bear that full burden. We do not want our rural roads to become thoroughfares. We want to continue to own our roads. We do not want Orange Grove west of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to be widened or to be built to DOT standards. We want Orange Grove to remain a rural community road. We do not want to encourage cut-through traffic. In relation to the broader plan, the priority matters. Please accept the plan, but do not, please do not adopt the current version of the plan.
Ma'am.
Thank you. And
Mr.
please make sure
Maldonado.
Indian Trails has a seat at the table. Thank you.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, Mayor, Commissioners, everyone here, staff, WSP. Fantastic work on putting together this plan. I know there's still a framework, there's additional work to be done, but as the former Executive Director of Palm Tran, having worked the 5 different transit systems, some large, Washington, D.C. being one of them, recognize the challenges that we face here. We have a community that's growing, we have congestion, we have a lot of issues. One of the biggest challenges that we face in this county is the fact that we have a municipal transit system. Palm Trans, which is an incorporation and a partnership between, managed by the county, as a department of the county. Palm Trans Incorporated has the potential of becoming a regional transit authority. It was presented as an option here to look into. What it would do, it would allow a multi-jurisdictional board to be able to come together. It will set aside some of the friction, the political things that take away from transit being a real system that focus on the needs of this community. If you were to look at HART and Tampa, the Hillsborough Regional Transit Authority, it is done through Chapter 163 of the Florida statute that allows interlocal agreements between the different municipalities, and you have a multi-jurisdictional board that is comprised of representatives from the different municipalities to be able to govern and decide on transit. When you have it as a municipal transit, you have those political shifts, money for this or that has been taken away from it, and it doesn't focus on transit. So that would be a recommendation that if we have the opportunity to evaluate this before you bring it back to the board, it would be something that would, I think it would do a lot of great. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello. Thanks for having us here today. My name is Lisa Johnson from Loxahatchee, the unincorporated area. I can't believe it's been 2 years since I was at the Planning and Zoning, but we're here. I thought I'd see more details of priority of roadways today. So I oppose adopting this living document as a whole today. I'm speaking mostly of the rural Midwestern community that Mayor Baxter mentioned. I don't think we've been fairly represented started, I don't know that we even really had a clear seat at the table. As Richard Vassalotti mentioned, our roads are unique in the terms that, our property lines go to the middle of the road and we pay taxes on them. We're talking about near term, midterm, long range. I'm talking about past term. I'm concerned about the unincorporated county slide PowerPoint, the changes to the comp plan and the ULDC amendments. What are these? Where are they? Can we please review those? The projects need to be started that have not been either started or completed, but before further assessments can be accurately made. An example is State Road 7 connection from Royal Palm through which I'm using that as an example. Royal Palm Beach Boulevard connection to through State Road 7 has created this mess on Orange Grove Boulevard we're dealing with today. We just had a geotechnical study done by Indian Trail. I don't know who had to pay for it, but it's a serious, maybe an $18 million charge of Unit 1. So we have to decide on this. The county wanted that connection. They got it. There was a lawsuit. The causation of that. I know I'm done. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
No, well, we got one more speaker, but yeah.
Your light's on.
I believe we've completed.
We have one more card.
We have one more card.
Oh, I'll stand down.
Thank you. Michael Bornstein. I'm the village manager in Palm Springs. I've also been very actively involved from the get-go when this project was first talked about as a City Managers Association representative, as well as my city and my mayor and council have directed me to be involved in this, fortunately or unfortunately. Kudos to the county staff, WSP, all the professionals that have participated from the various agencies that are involved in the Intergovernmental Coordinating Program. I'm here to encourage you to support McFeck, or as I say, McFeckin's motion to not endorse, not adopt yet, but let IPARC. And you mentioned, several of you, that it's about getting the support of the other agencies that are involved in this. It's more than that. As you know, you don't have jurisdictional authorities for all kinds of things within the cities and in certain areas. And it's important that as this review goes forward, and these professionals, your planners, your transportation folks, your IT folks, everyone that makes up IPARC 2.0 is engaged in this next phase of reviewing this so that adoption and implementation across all the agencies occurs, so that this isn't just a county plan, it is truly becomes a county-wide plan. And there's some examples I can give you. One of the policies that's in the document actually came from Palm Springs, and it's about as you have commercial corridors where there's obsolescence and you're seeing investment come in and take these large parcels, these shopping centers, we should be capturing easements now. If we had only done that 20 or 30 years ago, we might not be in some of these messes. So while we're getting bogged down in specific capital project conversations at this point, there's a lot of arcane and detailed things in the policies, procedures, and toolkits that these agencies unilaterally across the county need to consider. Doesn't mean they have to adopt. Everybody has their own jurisdictional authority, but they need to know what's going on and they have a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. And I'm very pleased to speak after public comment. I've listened attentively during this whole process, and I find that for us to vote on a motion to adopt a resolution approving your transportation master plan, and then we are asked to adopt a resolution doing your work, which is to engage municipalities, stakeholders, interested parties, and agencies. And then we're being asked to give you additional work for money. Let me just say this. I'm going to vote no on each one of those. I think you have a good idea, but you're not done. I have 225,000 people in District 5. I've researched this while y'all were talking about all these AI issues and found out that you had one meeting in District 5 on September 17th, 2025, in the northern part of District 5. Majority of my density of folks live in the southern, western part of District 5. Not one meeting. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. And then when I hear other stakeholders talk about their issues where they live, and they haven't heard from you, nor have they had the opportunity to speak about the number one concern that people have today, which is traffic. Now, we paid you $1 million to tell us we have traffic. We paid you $1 million to tell us how you can solve traffic issues. Slide 17, you had all these different roads, Lyons Road, yet, and I have Lionel Gray here today. I'm not going to embarrass him and point him out. But Lionel Gray is a grower in my district on Lyons and 441, which is one of the streets that you had listed up there. Yet he does not have a way to get his tractors safely from on Lyons Road and about Atlantic Avenue along the roadway on Lyons Road. This has been going on for years and it's getting worse. 441 is one of the other streets. FDOT. What have you done to connect with FDOT on how the tractors and the trailers and the trucks are moving on 441? How about the horse ranches on 441? Not one scintilla of evidence that have I been given, or we have been given on that issue. A third is Atlantic Avenue. My God, by the time you started here to do this $1 million study, Atlantic Avenue has been being really beautifully done by the FDOT. Yet not one issue have you spoken about bicycle paths on Atlantic Avenue. What are you doing with Atlantic Avenue? And that's an avenue that stretches from 441, really west of 441, all the way to A1A. So you haven't done your job. And by God, I'm going to make sure you do your job because that's our money. I love municipalities. I don't have any municipalities in District 5. And I'm getting a little angry, and I don't want to get angry because I want to be very, very specific with y'all. Get your job done. You tell us specifically, do we need more development? I've got Cobra here on the right. They've been sitting here since 9:30. What's going to happen with increased development around Boynton Beach Boulevard and Lyons Road? That's your job. Should we increase development in that area? Can those two roads handle increased traffic or not? That's what I want to know. And that's what we, the taxpayers, are paying you to tell us. Because we on this board has to make decisions based on your testimony and your evidence. So get your job done. Find out, can we have more development on the Cobra areas on Boynton Beach Boulevard and Lyons Road? Can Lionel Gray and my growers over here on the left side, sitting here patiently during this, be able to transfer and know that their workers are safe as they go along Lyons Road with their tractor trailers? Can horse people and equestrians on 441, how about Boca Grove? What's going on in the southern part of District 5 with Lyons Road and the dangerous curve by Timbers? We got a big county, folks, and I'm telling you, it's big. It's the largest county in the state, but we're paying you good money to get the job done. So I'm done with this. You know what my vote is. I'm waiting for you to give us, pretty soon, an answer to these questions that we've given you and all the public have given you as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to go back to a couple of previous slides. I had on slide 11, you had a number of projects, we have the scope and scale with all the different cities that were listed, the CRAs that are listed, the county commission districts, the water control drainage conservancy districts, and it's sort of a database right now that we have to work from. And my question is, how do you see, with what you've given us, the ability for us to collaborate with each other? Or, as again, I've already mentioned, the county may not always be involved in some of these projects. How do cities collaborate with each other? With what you're getting ready to deliver to us, is this something that our staff will have to be the one to kind of help them navigate, or is this going to be accessible for all of the cities? They will have staff, their planners, their departments that can go in and utilize this tool as well. How does that, all of these projects, especially if we're not really involved in it, how does that work for them? Or us if we are involved in it?
So the team has created a portal for all the cities to access. We anticipate that portal will continue, whether it is manned by county staff or the consultant team. Again,
that answers part of that.
Yes.
Because you mentioned, I guess we have to have county staff that would continue to upload any changes.
Yes.
But they have access themselves.
Yes, we are transferring that data as we speak now. Okay, so we're migrating the GIS database. We've had discussion with OTI staff, but there'll have to be dedicated staff from planning and also with help from the engineering department. We're going to continue that core team of county staff. I've asked for one full-time employee who's dedicated to this project, alone. That is part of the second resolution for the implementation phase so that we can continue the momentum and work to get more of the information. All the profiles for your district are available through that database as well. So hopefully with working with the subcommittees, if the board feels that's necessary, we can do that. But I believe that there's got to be one staff from the county, paid for by the county, just like we did with this project, to continue that momentum and to seek input. And also wherever there's technical interpretation or value from WSP, it could be an hourly, it could be a negotiated. That's something that we would need to speak further and bring back to you if the board chooses to have us directly to go and look at more specific tasks for the next phase.
Okay, because, Commissioner Powell is sort of our resident planner here. I'm learning planning on the fly. But, as an elected official, one of the requests that I had for something like this, and a number of my counterparts in the cities, when we talk about, we get projects that come to us and we have to vote, whether it's in the planning phase or whether it's in the zoning. And to have a tool that we could kind of tap into and say, because when applicants come to us, they show us on a map, like, here's what's there now, here's what's surrounding, whatever, and then we know what our roads look like. But to have a tool that we could then, even as elected officials, can go in and use this. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then look at our own broader, we can understand, and then even know, all right, this road is in, it's in design phase, it's about to be expanded, or this road, not even in the 5-year plan. I mean, and however that translates in the future, like, this is stuff that we can know for our own purposes for voting. And then we also have cities who vote, and our county roads run in front of that property. So even though we don't have jurisdictional, we can't say yes or no in the zoning, whatever they decide, well, that's our county road that's about to be impacted. So then you all, that would be more of a staff level, would know, all right, they just approved something, in the city that's going to give us an impact on this road. And maybe we need to shift the prioritization of an intersection, and impact fees kind of help us know that as well. When we have to charge more, we know there's a big impact coming. But this is also something that when they're voting, because, they have the same problems that we do in the cities. They get large projects, and nothing against lobbyists. You guys do a great job, but you present us this wonderful vision, and we really sometimes have to dig in and kind of do our own research. And this is real information that's going to have every city. State roads are in here because we can't tell the state what to do, but we at least know what is the state going to do, and maybe we can encourage them, because 5 of us are in the MPO. We can help prioritize that. So you answered a lot of that we're going to have access to it. other electeds all around, they're all going to have access to it.
Of public facing where you don't have to have the GIS program to be able to do that. We have that for all the projects that's in there now. The next step is to make that into a public facing on the website where people can look at these key corridors and get into all the projects that's in there. Once the design and development and the screen further has been accomplished, and again, those transitional pieces are important. Like I said, this gets communities, cities, villages to talk and see how you transition within that corridor. But yes, there will be a public-facing, we would hope, so that people can just look and see, how long does it
public
take?
could go in, type in their road, look at what's coming, and
Yes.
get the full picture of it. And so that way, we're trying to be. It's not just transparency for us who have to vote. The general public should know what we know as well. I'll skip ahead to slide 19. Just as this, you have this as an example of a corridor, because this is Military Trail with all the intersections that go. This is just one example. You've done all the major thoroughfare corridors, and this is also something we can see.
Yeah, laid out in the plan are basically the graphic is a summary of what's in there.
And this
for
will
each
also
of the
be made
21
available to the
corridors.
public,
Yes.
too.
On page,
I know this is part of the 2000 document, but as far as what's going to be kind of digestible for the public, we'll have a section like this people can
Yes.
see.
So currently on the fourth chapter, page 8, starts the 21 corridors, and then each of those corridors, they have east and west corridors with the projects, and then the north and south corridors as well. So, and then there's also an appendix, which is the bulk of the 1,000+ pages, where you can see where the information from the different district representatives to the municipality comes from as well. So it's in there. It's very difficult for us to do that here.
But this
and-
is where, on page 26, all of that type of information, that's part of the searchable part that the public will be able to see, and us.
Yes.
Yes.
So we don't have to read the 4,000 or 2,000 pages.
Yes, and I
whatever.
believe, Emily, you had one slide that had example of this, where you have the
Yes.
project database on top. It tells you where the sources, what plan it came from, whether it's a city or MPO or whatever. We can further develop for the forward-facing one. This is a static picture, but if you are in the GIS program, you can see. And I think the team had the database at these public meetings for people to see where they are. We're hoping that will be synthesized into a public web portal.
This page, the 26, I very much would support a version of that being made available for all, because it's searchable, it's easier to digest instead of having to go through hundreds of pages to get to the information. And so I really like that. And then last one, I will say, we had a slide where you were showing examples with right-of-ways. I didn't write that. Oh, page 25. I can just go back one. I have had a couple of just meetings with community groups that are interested in this on my own, and certain corridors where they are, they very much want walkability or bike lanes or whatever, or others where they just want safer crosswalks and intersections. This slide, I did ask you to include it because you give the ability to, if it's an 80-foot road, here's examples of what you could do and what's your priority. So especially CRAs, because the group that I met with was a CRA. I think for them this is a good tool because a lot of those areas they are developing a little more walkability. They want businesses to have foot traffic in front of them or restaurants. So this type of project or this type of slide, sorry, I'm getting a little hoarse here, would be very helpful. And this is just one example. You have multiple examples of what they could do, right?
Emily could tell you. And then there's also 2 rural and some suburban cross-section.
Right.
There's the entire library.
Yeah, there's a library.
You put everything in there, right?
options.
And that will all be part of the searchable website that can be utilized not just by us, but also by any group that wants to.
And we would imagine that this site, whether it's maintained by the county or a third party, we would also have updates of subcommittee projects and things like that on there. What's happening when the meetings are? Those could be utilized for these purposes, for looking into these and having it accessible.
And this is what I would hope when we have community, our members of the public, that come and speak to a very specific road. Like, we have a tool where we could really hone in on this intersection, what's available, what's a part of it, without it necessarily being like this is the rule for the county. It's like, no, this really makes sense for this road. And there's a number of intersections in my district where they're like hot button intersections, and that's going to drive up a meeting, but we have tools then to kind of guide the meeting and give people options if they're there. And this is what this intersection could look like. Here's your 4 ones, and have people interact with it. Not every intersection is ever going to drive that, but we all have certain roads or intersections that as soon as you bring it up, there's 10 opinions in the room and nobody agrees. So it will help us move forward with that. And I would just say, I wasn't really expecting you to solve this for us. It's kind of our job. And not just this board of 7, there's a number of responsible parties all around this county that have to make these decisions. My hope is that this gives us a framework to work together, because we all overlap and traffic moves like water. It goes where it goes, and people never know whose jurisdiction they're in, whose road they're on. Half the time, I don't even know. I drive in a city, I'm on a county road, I'm on a state road, whatever. I'm just trying to go to Publix. It doesn't matter. But we have to work together to solve this for the citizens. So with that, thank you for the start. I will be supporting the motion to receive and file and let IPARC do whatever it needs to do. And if there's more time, and Commissioner Weiss is good with that, however much time that needs to be. But it does need to move forward. We've invested in this. We're at a great start. And I hope that people are able to dig into this and look at what's out there and be able to have discussions. So thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I did want to piggyback off of Michael Bornstein had indicated earlier when he was talking about McFick, the conveyance of right-of-way. When you can you just elaborate on that a little bit? When you indicated we missed it the first time, and right-of-way conveyance, and
Yes, Commissioner. What I was referring to is a policy of when development comes in that approval process by the local jurisdiction, getting easements for transportation of some width along existing corridors for future needs, so that you can connect entire stretches with additional easement space, not penalizing the developer or the setbacks, but assuring that BR bus rapid transit, maybe even eventually if densities come in to warrant another form like rail. But right now, one of our biggest constraints is rights of way. So it was about easements and development.
Thank you. As a follow-up to that, I appreciate that. Of course, we don't have a lot of, that's a good point, if there's land to be developed, and then we're reaching across municipalities. My question or concern, I think it's been brought up a couple times, Mayor, you've even probably brought it up, the idea when hosting the meetings in the communication, and as we go into the next phase, I had an opportunity to attend at least one in person, and we did notice that as we talk about the public-facing portion of this, that attendance was pretty light. And we do know that we advertise it on the county's website and different things. I don't know how, maybe if we're more involved in that next phase of making sure people are aware, because this becomes a pretty important issue, but that participation portion, forcing people to interact is the challenging part. And I don't know what we could do to entice more people to be involved, but it does become concerning when we're looking at the overall and the comprehensive nature of what's being proposed in terms of and I said it earlier, kind of the abstract of the plan, like as we move forward. I really want to see, I don't know if we are going to take into account the suggestions of McFick, or if we're going to move forward how we have it, but I do want to keep moving forward so we can figure out ways to improve where we're going with traffic here in Palm Beach County. So it's a countywide transportation master plan, and there's a number of tools that have been pointed out. There are a number of issues, and I think we talked about corridors, figuring out how we can move. So they want to bring those things up. The public participation portion is still big. That's a tremendous weakness, but we have an opportunity there to turn it into something viable. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Going forward, I would actually like to go back to primary supporting and screen further, because I believe when you read the text and you're looking at, as Vice Mayor Woodward said, you've got the cutaway, the corridor, and then you've got the solution menu. Primary means this is something that's up first. It's descriptive. Supporting means it's next. Further screening, a lot of these, when you say further screening, we're talking about 2050. So that's not realistic. So transformative versus further screening, those two don't go together. So I would like to go back to the primary, the supporting, and the screen further. I would agree that we should receive and file this as a living, breathing document that has needs more information. I would give us a couple more months to do this, yes. But I think what's really important is, if we do this, how do we implement it? And that's not here. Jacksonville has they have the JAX transportation system. So I think a lot of municipalities are concerned with, how does this get implemented? Who is in control? If the county is 100% in control, the municipalities are not going to buy in. The unincorporated areas also need a voice. So we go to the Cobras of the world, the Barks of the world, the NCNCs of the world, and get their input also, because those are gatherings of different HOAs in these different communities. And I know that we've said this before, and I asked you to do an additional meeting in the gardens, and it was very poorly attended. It was noticed, and there was more staff there than there were people from the community. We can lead a horse to water, we can't make it drink. I hate that expression, but it really does. We can put the information out there, but as Commissioner Powell also said, we can't force people to interact with us. We have to give them as much opportunity as possible. So if we can give ourselves a little bit more time for that, I think we need to. But we also need to really figure out, if this is something we decide to do, how do we implement it? Because nobody's going to buy into this if they know exactly how we are going to implement it. Now, I realize this is also, we did not ask you for costs on this, because this is multi-billions of dollars. So that is, I'm just putting it out there. This is not like we're going to spend $100 million and be done. When you consider, there was I will talk about an old section of North Lake Boulevard that we wanted to 3-lane from Military Trail to 95. And to just acquire right-of-way was over $50 million. So going back to Mr. Bornstein's comment about easements and right-of-ways, those things need to be figured out, because that goes into what the pricing is. We're talking about, I'll save my next comment for the Tim later, but at the end of the day, this is a living, breathing document. It needs to be received and filed. We need to give you more time to really come up with answers to the questions you've heard from the board. And IPARC and MCFIC need to be involved, only because that gives us the multi-jurisdictional involvement that we're looking for a buy-in from 1.6 million people. So who's next? Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. And as many people have said, this is the beginning. This is a framework, and thank you for the work you put into it. I think there's a couple things I want to touch on. There was an article today in the Palm Beach Post talking about a dedicated funding source. We're not there yet. We haven't even broached that subject. I don't know how it got into the article. I mean, ultimately, there may come that point when we have cost, and then you're going to say, well, how are you going to fund this? And we're going to need the people to weigh in and say whether they want to move forward or not. But we're far from that today, and so I think that was confusing to people to see that out there, that was going to be our discussion today, which it is not. Did you review? I mean, because some of these issues revolve around I-95 and the Turnpike and issues that are on there, on those roadways, and then they bleed over into the streets, right? Did you all look at that?
They are included in the modeling, but we did not address improvements to either of those corridors, not having jurisdiction over them.
Although we don't have jurisdiction, I think we need to point that out. For example, I can tell you that, every afternoon on I-95 southbound, guaranteed you're going to get stopped at 45th Street or further north. And so that pushes people onto the local roadways to get around that. So that causes problems on Congress, on Australian. Those roadways are impacted because of the issues that are on I-95. And I'm sure there's other examples. That's just one I'm very familiar with. And I think that needs to be part of this understanding. You bring up autonomous vehicles. My view of them is that they improve safety, but they don't improve traffic. I mean, other than the sense that they don't have as many accidents. So I'm not sure they're going to be a part of this at some point, potentially, if the public accepts them. And that was one of the points I think that was made, was that in the report it said that this is an inevitability, and I think we're not there yet. I don't know that the public at this point is, there's overwhelming acceptance of it. One of the tools I didn't see, and maybe I missed it, planning tool, part of this should be having a digital twin for this county. There's no way, and this goes to Vice Mayor's point, and I think some of the other members, without that, we don't know the impact. The city and the boards that are making these decisions in our municipalities, they don't know the impact, the collective impact. We get a traffic study, right? The law requires that they have to put a traffic study in. And for the public's understanding, what this traffic study is, it's the number of cars that are going to either come onto the roadway because of this development based on the use. But that doesn't take into account what's happening around there. So we don't know, as a planning tool, when we make a decision on a comp plan change or something like that, we don't know, have the knowledge of what that is. And I think that's really important, and it should be something that comes out of this, is that we end up with a tool like that for us. There's an internal inconsistency in your corridor scoring methodology. This is on your chapter 2. On pages 2 through 30, it says the roadway, transit, bicycle, and pedestrian categories are weighted equally, and the total score is a simple average. But then later on page in there, it says the same category scores are combined using policy-based weights. And those are two very different methodologies. And so this then results in determining the high need corridors. I would like the staff to reconcile this and show whether changing the weights changes which corridors rise to the top. The safety action plan came too late to drive the corridor rankings. And in the plan, or in the framework here, it acknowledges this. Yet the safety action plan has a very specific goal of a 50% reduction fewer fatal and serious crashes by 2035, and 0 by 2045. So if safety is supposed to be the highest priority, I would ask for why the final prioritization was not to rerun the model with the high energy injury network before, and I think it needs to happen before this gets adopted by the board. On the technology chapter, and I mentioned this, but you know, in the inevitability, and that's the term that's in there. It's inevitable that robotaxis, drones, delivery robots, eVTOLs, vertiports, autonomous freight, and a automated people mover as near-term learning opportunities. And in the same section, it proposes testing roadway usage fees, including one-time time-of-day fees on vehicles entering Palm Beach County, and even fees for tourists. Those are major policy choices, and they're not what I would consider technology pilots. So I would not want to adopt this until you know, because that would mean that we have support for that. And so I think we need to really clarify that. The airport to the downtown automated people mover is very specific for a project that has not gone any feasibility analysis. The plan lays out stations, route concepts, corridor preservation, implementation actions, but at the same time says there's no detailed engineering, ridership forecasting, alternative analysis, or cost estimating, which all still need to be done. The document, it says that this is going to cost between several $100 million to $1 billion, excluding ongoing operations. And that's troublesome in the sense that you'd really want to have the alternative analysis and ridership numbers before elevating one technology to this degree. And then the project prioritization, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, is based heavily on need, but not on the value for the money. And that, I think, is a major, and obviously we didn't ask you, we knew you weren't going to do cost, but that has to be part of this because how can we rank things until we know what the cost benefit is going to be? You know, a corridor can rank really high without telling the board whether we're going to be spending $20 million or whether we're better off spending that $20 million somewhere else. And so I think that's important. I think, you know, as I said, it's a great framework for where we can and should be going, but it's not really a plan yet that I think as a board we can adopt. And I think until we really can address some of these major ideas, I think it would be premature at this point. So I will not be, as I said earlier, I'm not going to be supporting the adoption. I'm happy to receive it. I am also happy to, on the motion to adopt a resolution encouraging our municipalities and everybody else continuing to work together. And I'm also willing to support bringing back, directing staff to bring back another negotiated scope of work for additional services. So it would be, to receive a resolution to receive this, adopt a resolution encouraging, and then to bring back the costs.
Second. Commissioner Flores, you're recognized.
All right. So my question to you, the experts, that you've been on this for about 2 years, correct?
1 year. 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
Well, we've been on this for almost 2 years.
Yes.
Okay. What are your findings? What did you find out when you did this? You collected all this information, you talked to the people, you did your thing. What was the major finding? That there's traffic?
No, there more than that. And I think through our findings, yes, there is, but more specifically that congestion is time of day based, and looking at solutions that can address that, because it doesn't
So it's time of day because
of the types of trips that people are making.
Which are what?
Many,
assuming work, right?
Yeah, many of them are work trips. Some of them are not. They're for other uses. But also based on that, with some of the recommendations that we didn't dive into around transportation demand management specifically, is there an opportunity to spread that window out, for example, and that there's quite a bit of actually infrastructure available. So how can it be better used to address those windows of time where it's the worst, and then being able to, without having to add more. There are areas where additional capacity may be needed, but really the focus is on how do you maximize the capacity that you have and address the time of day issues. And some of that is also diverting between modes and creating a mode shift situation and having more opportunity in order to conveniently make that mode shift, I'll say it that way. There are also, I think it's very clear that the railroad crossings are an issue of breaking down the system pretty quickly. And so I think emphasis on how to address that is not an easy solution and requires a lot more work, but those sort of back-to-back rail crossings in some of the heart of the areas is something that could possibly provide some amount of relief in terms of doing that. And there are different ways to look at that, but I think that's a big one. I think we also see opportunities for the bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and having, again, just more options for those shorter trips in between neighborhoods and that sort of thing, and not having it be solely focused on that. And we could run down a list of a few more things. I do think that especially in terms, I know we've talked a lot about the signals, but an investment in the signal pieces and having that be more system-wide rather than corridor-based, I think is also one of the biggest quick win options.
So, and then from there, you identified 21 corridors. Is that what we're?
Yeah, the 21 corridors, again, is beyond. We had pulled out already looking at the long range plan. So anything that was existing plus committed. So projects that are essentially already in the works. So this is beyond that. So thinking about some of the corridors where there's already planned and programmed projects that may feel like that's missing, this is in addition to, not in lieu of. So that might be something that should be clarified, is that there are already planned and programmed projects from that existing and committed list. And so this is looking beyond that area. When we looked at those high need corridors, it was already assuming that those would be in place.
All right, and most of those corridors are east to west, right?
I think it's pretty balanced actually between east to west and north to south.
Yeah, I would say so.
What was that?
It's pretty balanced between.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you've brought out some quick wins, but what are some of the big ideas? Like at one point, I even heard you guys were thinking about suspending or putting something above on Okeechobee.
Yeah. So the some conceptual big ideas that came through this one was taking into consideration the thoroughfare identification map that is part of the comprehensive plan. There were, it had identified several interchanges between 95 and the Turnpike. So in taking that into consideration as something that's already been identified as an idea, is that's a lot of infrastructure in and of itself, just those interchanges. So is there a way to think about how you would connect those. We've gotten a lot of comments around that. But thinking about, again, more of that throughput piece, could you separate the throughput from the local access that's needed? And so that was one of the ideas that
So what other big
would be the
ideas
very long term.
do you have?
The other piece we had in there was an opportunity for what we classified as flex lanes or flexible lanes, really looking at some of the larger corridors. Again, going back to that time of day issue, is there an opportunity to maybe have, transit lanes operate some times of day and then open them up for more users during other times of day in order to help with that flow and throughput, again, separating out people that are trying to make a longer trip on a corridor from those that have local access. It may help with weaving and some of the safety concerns as well.
So where do you foresee that being feasible? Because with the amount of intersections that we have, that would be almost a nightmare unless you do it on Southern. And even then, there's still intersections as you get east and as you get further
Yeah,
west.
so it would tie together in with how you do and look at the signal work within those and how you would have priority in the signals to be able to move within those lanes. Again, it's a conceptual idea that would absolutely require further study and looking at how that could work and which corridors it would work the best in, but it was really thinking about those time of day issues and providing, using the capacity in different ways.
What do you think is one of the highest transited roads in the county? Or what are some of the top? I'm assuming 95, the Turnpike, probably Southern.
US 1
Yeah,
is one of them. I mean, there's been so many great plans already done and studies done around transit.
Right.
We did run a high-frequency model also early on in this to look at how much ridership would be generated if you move those headways from currently to an hour to 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and so that's all in the report as well. But US 1 is one of them, and then, the 561 plan, for example, has identified several corridors
Right.
where the ridership not only has highest ridership today, but has potential based on what's coming in with land uses.
And where are most of these people going?
Work, school.
Which is usually where?
Oh, we have the.
I mean, my question is, where are they all heading? They're all probably heading downtown West Palm, where's the majority of
Hubs.
the jobs?
Yeah.
Probably Boca, probably going up to Palm Beach Gardens. They're heading to a very specific destinations in the morning, right? Because they're going to work.
Right.
So based on that, a lot of this stuff that you guys sort of discovered, I think most of us already knew. I think when we met, I gave you some of that information. I know we have to quantify it and you have to do the, collection of plans, collection of data, and sort of go through that on your own because that's kind of what we were expecting. But I think we kind of already knew a lot of this stuff. And what we were expecting from you was more on how do we provide solutions to our taxpayers, to the people that are writing, the people that paid for this particular plan. We are now on the second ask of more funding. Am I right? Tui? Yeah. On the second request of more funding. And all we have collected so far is a framework. And this is truly what this is. You have put together a system that we're going to collect information and we're going to evaluate, and then we have sort of steps and processes, which, by the way, government already has on some of this. But I guess and by the way, I'm going to air out my frustration. This has been a wreck since the beginning, and I'll explain to you why. I recall getting into an argument up here about discussing the RFP. Because all I wanted to do was to see the RFP before it went out on the streets. And for whatever reason, the previous administration did not want to share that with us. I voted, and I want to be clear about this, I had to vote on approving an RFP that I did not get to see. And the only reason, and I made that comment very clear, is because that man right there, Michael Bornstein, the city manager for Palm Springs, told me that it was okay, that it was good. In other words, we have more confidence sometimes in external people than internal people. The 7 of us that get to vote up here and say yes or no. With that same token, as we have gone through this process, I feel that the least people, the least stakeholders that have contributed or provided input into this process is this board. Up here on your stat, you have met with us 18 times, whether it's in public meetings or one-on-ones. There's 7 of us. If you do 2 one-on-ones, that's 14. At no point in time have we had a chance to discuss some of these ideas, some of these concepts, but you've had the opportunity to have those with MCFEC. You presented some ideas out in the community hearings and public hearings that you've had. But at no point in time have we, this board, had a choice to discuss, to do a workshop, to talk, to bounce off each other. We haven't had that. And now today, which, by the way, I already mentioned it, but 2 weeks ago, you brought this up to me. You said, hey, we want you to adopt this. And you handed me, or you emailed me, a 2,000-page document. And which, by the way, we have 3 public hearings this week. We have BCC yesterday. We have Comp Plan today, which we're at the first item. We haven't even finished. And then tomorrow, we have zoning. I am not a slow reader, but I don't know how I can get through that much information in 2 weeks. So I'm not anywhere near of being comfortable with this plan or this framework. And let's call it what it is. It's a framework. We have building blocks that we are now going to start, peeling back the layers and trying to figure out how do we prioritize, how do we fund, how do we do all of these things. But where we're at today, it's a good start. I expected us to be here about 6 months ago. 6 months ago, I laid into you guys again because you did not meet my expectations. We were going through slides about the update, and we were just collecting information, and we weren't going anywhere. But now this is the second time that you're coming back and asking for more money. So let me ask you this about the contract that we entered. Is it time-based or is it deliverable-based? Because if it's deliverable-based, I don't know that we're there. All of the deliverables have not been met.
So it's both, but more likely the deliverable based. And again, there are specifics that, again, the team has come up with. Some of these projects will need to have more detailed, vetting, especially among the different communities that's out there. But again, what we're asking for is just to continue to discuss this with other groups and to come up with more details.
But that's not what you're asking. What you're asking today is for us to adopt what you're calling a master plan. And once we adopt something, then we have to adhere and live by it. If not, we just wasted money. So we need a product that, in fact, it is what we want it to be, and that then we're going to adopt, and that then we're going to use as a guiding document to solve transportation issues moving forward. Because if not, then we just spent $1 million out the window with no significance.
So yes, understood.
Right?
And like I said before, this is something, if it's not, we're constantly updating the plan. And it is, again.
I'm going to take a step back to you, and I apologize. Are you shocked by the comments that this board has made today?
No.
Do you think you were ready to present today? I don't think you were, because based on what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners, you're not anywhere near being ready to adopt. And you should have known that when you met with us.
Yes, understood.
Okay. I yield my time. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I share my fellow commissioners' frustration, and I think you've heard me say this over and over again. Even at the beginning of this meeting, I mean, we did a lot of time talking about all the people we've talked to. We do that a lot, but that is the same thing that has been repeated and has gotten us no further. Why I was very specific. What is the plan? What are you suggesting? And what are those suggestions based on? And again, to my question of why isn't the Midwestern community a part of this as well? Why are we not seeing real data? For $1 million, we should be so much further than this and have so much more information. And all I keep hearing about is all the talking going on. And yes, collaboration is absolutely important, but not a year worth and $1 million worth. This has to, we need to stop, just keep spending and spending. We need real information. And I think the whole thought of this, when we even brought up the countywide master transportation plan, is I think we get our our inboxes are full of complaints of traffic congestion. Now, I do agree there are different solutions in different areas, whether it is downtown or out west, no matter what that is, but we absolutely need to solve the problem. Our infrastructure is behind, and we need traffic congestion relief. And nothing presented, and to Commissioner Weiss's point, none of us brought up autonomous vehicles. None of us have brought up people movers. None of us on this board has brought up so many things in this plan. What we need are realized things. And again, I absolutely agree with the value for money. If you bring to us and say, hey, if we do this, this will give us this much traffic congestion, that's real data. That's things we can make decisions on. That's information that we can then decide what we want to push forward. But the big problem that everyone it is traffic congestion. Now, whether that is multimodal, whether it is PalmTran, no matter what it is, but we need the information to do that. I agree, I am not ready to adopt this master transportation plan. It does not give us solutions to what this board has repeatedly asked for. It absolutely doesn't, and it takes into all these considerations of things we've never asked for. So again, whether that is more meetings with us on a public, so everyone could come here, but we need to be able to put something in place for future. We need to not only catch up on the infrastructure, and we need to plan for the future. But there has to be a value for that as well. When we are ranking these projects, if we can have how much traffic congestion it would relieve, how much money does that particular item, is it going to cost us? Then we can appropriately rank what should be done, what needs to be prioritized, and move forward. Is there something in this that I am missing? What have you been trying to calculate and get forward with all these community meetings?
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges is balancing it out because like you pointed out, this board did not talk about autonomous automated people mover, for example, but the stakeholders did. And so there were different things through this process, iPark 2.0, for example, very pro-transit, very different ideas of how to move people throughout the county. And then we talked to the board, and then we talked to the public. So balancing all of those things out, bringing it together in this master plan was
I think
the approach that we had to take.
Taking in all those ideas is amazing, but then putting them in a ranking list of how much traffic relief for how many dollars that will cost us is ideal. It is absolutely, we can have a million ideas, but again, how much relief do we get from that idea and how much money is it costing us? And those are going to be the two biggest factors going forward. And it was said 96% of our people are using roadways. If there's ways to get more people off the road that has been proven to work and we have that information, bring that to us. We absolutely need information. I haven't heard a consensus from this board. Commissioner Weiss was going down motions and not. Were you making a motion or were you saying which ones you would support, Commissioner? Weiss, and I have 2 lights on before we do this. We have multiple lights on, excuse me. I just want to ask Commissioner Weiss, were you making motions or were you saying which ones you were support or against?
I was saying which ones I would support or against,
That's
but I
what I
would be
thought.
happy to make that motion.
Let's finish comments, or, okay, well, I don't remember exactly which ones he made and didn't, but Commissioner Vice Mayor Woodward would like to second them. Would you like to hear comments? Sure. Commissioner Marino, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't believe that when we started this process, we asked them to put a dollar amount to anything. So
Fair.
I don't want that to be a sticking point now because it wasn't something that we asked for. But I think if we're going to give you more time, you need to give us return on investment. Okay?
Absolutely.
So that would be, if we are going to do this, that has to be part of what you bring back to us. And it is very important because if the return on investment isn't there, then the project goes from being top of the list to being bottom of the list. How you do that, you're the experts, we are not. So that is up to you to decide. I would agree with the motions that have been made, but again, I would also like to go back to primary, supporting, and screen further because those really speak to the issue. And if it is something that's primary, but all of a sudden you come and it says, there's no return on our investment, it goes to screen further, and screen further in your document here is 2050. It's not today. So I will agree with the motions that are made, but I would also like, if we could amend the motion to make sure that the menu emphasis reads primary, supporting, and screen further, that would make me very happy.
Commissioner Weiss, would you restate your motions, please?
Thank you. I would make a motion to adopt or to receive the Countywide Transportation Master Plan, to adopt a resolution encouraging municipalities, stakeholders, interested state agencies, and other taxing authorities to continue to be engaged in a collaborative effort with each other for the successful implementation of the master plan, and to direct staff to bring back a negotiated scope of work for additional services for WSP for the implementation of the countywide master plan and for the BCC to review and approval at the September 24th zoning meeting.
And for clarification, we are not adopting the countywide master transportation plan. We are just doing a receive and file on it. And then we are going to adopt the last 2, which are the resolution encouraging municipalities and giving staff direction. Correct? Okay. And then Commissioner Marino was also adding
when we do
primary.
Item number 3, when you bring back the negotiated work and the implementation, I want those to read primary, supporting, and screen further, not
supporting and
whatever those flowery words were that you had it. Because these are more descriptive and more important. Thank you.
And can I just ask that we just take each motion separately, please?
Okay, so let's do for now, does anyone have an objection with us just doing a quick receive and file? Yes. I'll entertain the motion for receive and file.
Yes, I do, because we have, it was beautifully said by my colleagues, and I like the return on investment. They haven't finished their project yet. We paid for it, we haven't received it yet. So if we receive and file, we're receiving and filing something that has not been done yet. Why don't we give, is there any issue that would allow them another, they want to do it. You've worked hard on this, the staff has worked hard, right? Or not? You have, right? Do you want to finish it? Do you want to give us a return on our investment? Do you? Yes, of course they do. So I love what you said, Commissioner Marino, on a return on investment. This is taxpayer investment. We've received a lot of beautiful data, but we haven't received, as you said, Mayor, solutions, and as Commissioner Flores said. So is there any reason why we can't give them a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to give us what our return on investment? I know this fellow may not, you'll be here. You're going to come, you'll be here. But I think that you're almost there, And I think that what you need to do is just finish it so that then we can receive it, well, we can approve it.
Commissioner Sachs, we're heading right where you want to go. We're not adopting the plan. We're just
Good.
doing the receive and file for the paperwork currently.
And then they will come back.
And we will, those are in the future motions. The attorney asked that we take them separately.
Okay, so and we'll give them a date certain to come back so that we can get our ROI and we can talk to the taxpayers and see exactly what we spent their money on. And with that, I like it.
Commissioner Flores.
Sorry.
So I guess this question is for our attorney, is by receiving and filing this, does that do anything with the contract and the deliverables? Because if it does, then I think our attorney, our resident attorney here on this board has a point. And in addition to that, I would like to see deliverables compared to what was in the contract. So
unfortunately, I am not familiar with this contract, so I cannot answer this question.
So do you think that maybe we should hold off on the receive and file?
I think maybe let's just postpone receive and file for now, and we can go ahead with the other motions.
And with that being said, if we are not adopting this, I would have a hard time passing a resolution telling a municipality to go ahead and adopt this. So I think the second one is mute for me.
If I may,
right,
Mayor and board members, the contract has deliverable task, which has been completed. Up to this point, there are specific tasks that need to be completed. If the board feels that it's in page 22 of your attachment number 4. Those are the scope of services that's been worked on for the last year. And several of those scope has envisioned to have that go further to implement some of the vision framework projects, corridors, however that may be. So those tasks, they've done the public engagement, that's a deliverable. They've done a corridor analysis. They've also, the additional money was for additional 5 public meetings that were requested. That was not part of their proposal. So, and also the futuring concepts that were in there, that was done in February. Some of the meetings, we had one additional meeting for the previous one meeting. We had 4 meetings for this last summit. So again, there are tasks and there are deliverables in the scope. We now are looking at some additional scope to get the cost benefit, because that's what we're heading, because we need to have that for the board to be able to weigh in on that.
I apologize, Mayor. A cost analysis to what?
To the corridors that they're going to identify are the ones that
Corridors?
you're looking
We haven't
at.
even prioritized the projects.
The
So
project-
you're gonna do a cost analysis of 2,000 projects?
No. What we're asking for is specific to those 21
Right, so you need,
corridors.
I think you need some guidance from this board as to the things that we want to prioritize to then go do a cost analysis.
At least some cost analysis needs to be done before the board can make the decision. That's what I'm hearing.
I completely agree, but I think you're putting the cart before the horse, because if we haven't been presented with possible solutions.
Yes.
We have not prioritized what those solutions are that we may want to consider, so that then you can go do a cost analysis. Otherwise, you're just going to go do a cost analysis or a feasibility
Yes, of
study on
course.
2,000 projects?
No, of course
Exactly,
not.
that's my point.
I think, yes, continuing the discussion is one thing also, but I think to be able to get to the solution for you eventually down the line, there will be that. So that I'm just summarizing in a larger scope of things for those what would be in the cost analysis as part of the additional services. That's all.
I understand where you guys want to go. I want to know that the deliverables in this contract
Yes.
and the first supplemental that we did
Sure.
have been met.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, we have that, and we'll be able to give you some more information on that.
Deputy Administrator Pat?
Couple things. First of all, I want to emphasize, yes, we're comfortable that the contract meeting the deliverables that were required in this time frame have been met. Part one. Part two, Commissioner Flores, absolutely hear what you're saying. I guess as we're taking this part on, would also seek the board's direction. You've heard from our municipal partners and the representation from MCVIC. Does this board want to hear from the cities in presenting their thoughts as well on it? Or does this board want to run it through themselves first, and we take that to the body? You heard them talking about hopefully getting into it by the end of the year. There's that piece that's out there. Further to the return on investment piece, there's a function of cost. We didn't cost these. Guarantee you're not going to get engineered costs on it, but to establish some of those baselines for those returns, we need that as well. Agree 1,000%. We need to know which ones first, but where do we want to start?
Can't you bring us the recommendations from MCVIC to this board?
We absolutely could, but it would be returning to them, starting, if the direction from the board was starting with this larger one, breaking it down into points, hearing what they have to say, returning to the board, and they've recommended 5, 10, 20, whatever, however it shakes out, and that starting point.
Commissioner Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I've nearly forgotten what I was hoping to discuss. A couple things. To lower the temperature in the room, all right, let's pull back just a little bit and understand that this is when you start doing a countywide transportation master plan for the entirety of the county, I do understand that's a huge and comprehensive undertaking. The challenge, as Commissioner Flores indicated, was deliverables. Twee, you did indicate that there's a set of deliverables that you believe this team has met. I think that what we should do is compare and contrast the proposed deliverables to what has been met thus far. That way we know where we're at. If there are additional deliverables that the board wants, I think we need to iron those out. We're not a workshop, but we're in a public meeting now. This is an opportunity where we can all discuss what we want to see happen, what we believe proposed outcomes should be. So this is, I think, an opportunity for us to discuss what we would like to see. And because the consultants are here, it's your opportunity as consultants to tell us whether that is feasible or not, right? Because I know it takes manpower to deliver on some of the things that we're requesting. In essence, we've talked about corridor studies and how to improve some of these corridors. If we're going to look at a cost to do that, what is the cost today and then the cost that it may be in the future? Commissioner Marino indicated the 3 different tiers. And some of these things that we're talking about 50 years in advance. And the truth is, some of these projects will take 50 years because planning in a whole and comprehensively, we're not going to get it done in a week or 2. We would love to be able to improve how traffic works in Palm Beach County. Henceforth, the reason I asked the question earlier with regard to implementation, to see when we evaluate as projects are implemented or put in play, to be able to evaluate where we were and how we're starting to move in what direction. I do also understand that the county is going to continue to grow. There's more and more people moving here. There's cranes all up and down downtown West Palm Beach, and houses are being constructed. But how do we implement in a manner that we're able to grow and sustain in a manner that when we continue to grow, we see improved opportunities to move smoothly through traffic. So if the consultants believe that they've hit the deliverables, I mean, this is an opportunity where we put those up and say, okay, have we hit them or not? As opposed to, I don't think it does anybody any justice to say, well, we want this, you didn't do this, and why are we wasting a year, right? Show us the deliverables, let's see what we hit, and if there's additional deliverables that we would like to get to, this is our opportunity as a board to work those out, to determine where we're trying to go and figure it out in a process so we get there together. Because if not, we will continue to go around in circles. And I don't want to go in circles. I would like to get things done. I would like to keep moving forward. And I'll be truthful. Planning, especially comprehensive planning, entails not just traffic. Of course, that's why we have a comprehensive plan. There's a number of different elements. Future land uses will change. There's housing issues, but traffic and transportation is just a part of that. But all of these things have to be intertwined in order to get to where we're hoping to go. And that comes with us working together. And it's comprehensive. It will take more than just the consultants here who are working on traffic. And then you're working with 39 municipalities, which, we change from day to day. I mean, I don't agree with myself from day to day. So, agreeing with municipalities and people who you work with is going to be very difficult. So if it's possible, in a nutshell, let's look at I'll break it down. The deliverables that we were hoping to have had today, and then to take those, see if they've been met, and then if there's additional deliverables we'd like to see, let's go towards those. In addition, we're considering spending additional dollars. We have a budget, and we've been cutting items out of the budget. Do we have the funding to continue that? If we do, then, if we don't, we need to discuss. If we do, we need to figure out where it's coming from. I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to go back to one thing. You all, WSB, were chosen because you are experts in this field. You've done this before. You were not tasked with coming up with a cost aspect at all. So I want to remind that of the board. You were never tasked with that. So that is not a deliverable for today. What I would like to see in the near term is that if we're going to come up with costs, you do it based on, is it a primary? Is it supporting or screen further? I think how many of the 2,200 projects did you consider primary?
I don't know off the top of my head, but we can find out.
So that if we're going to try to narrow the scope, my suggestion would be if you all considered it because of the input from the board, the input from the stakeholders, the input from the municipalities, if it's considered primary, it means it's important. It means it should have a cost related to it. If we can go and cost the primaries out, I think we would have a benchmark as to where we need to go in the future. So that would be my suggestion. If we are going to increase your workload, the workload should be based on what is the good return on investment, and you should use the primary projects that you have listed. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of been taking in what the board has been saying on some of this, and I do agree. I think we need to be realistic with what the deliverables were, what was in the contract, and if those have been met, I don't know if we're deciding that today, if that's something you need to pull up and show us, because I'm not sure which attorney was over this contract. But if the deliverables were met, then we need to receive and file if that has been done. If we want to make some changes, I think we as a board need to be very specific. This is our time to be very specific. And if the goal is to kick it to MCBEC and have, a future conversation, I think there's two categories that matter a lot. One's going to be locations, so certain roads, intersections, certain areas that are true pain points, where the highest density, and at rush hour, it's a thing. I mean, every morning and afternoon, we know where those pinch points are, and we all have to sit through it too. So the locations, but then the second part's going to be like the modes, whether are you saying public transportation will help alleviate it? Is it smart signals? Is it both? It's something else altogether. So they're two different things. And if we're going to prioritize this, this is not a big C countywide project. This is little C county, all of us. And we may not even be responsible to pay for some of these priority projects that you're going to put forth. If it's something that's a West Palm Beach city, in their city, their road, I don't see why not that we don't care, but it's not we're not a funding source for that. maybe we become a partner in it, depends. But I mean, if it's something in the city of Boca Raton, if it's one of their roads and I live in that city and it's all in theirs, but we're identifying it as that's a pain point right now. And Glades Road getting to the turnpike, I know that's a pain point. What can we do to help that? And you mentioned Plex roads. There'd be like major changes on that, but if it's 5 lanes coming, east in the mornings and 5 lanes going west in the afternoons, however that shapes up, that is a potential real solution for that very specific road to get people to the turnpike and back. So, and again, that's not us because, well, actually that might be a little bit of us. No, that's state road. Glades is state road. So then we're appealing to the state. How do we do this? And it's in the city. So again, some of these, we need dollars kind of attached to this. Where do we get the biggest bang for the buck? But again, it may not always be us that has to pay for it. But we need to let those cities know, hey, this is what you can start working towards, and you start putting grant money out or go to the state or whatever you need to do to help get funding for it. But again, it moves the people in this county. So what is it we need to do to move the people? So if we've met the deliverables, I am for us moving forward and paying this part of it, receive and file, whatever has to happen. If that's not today, if it needs to come back because we want an attorney to look at it, I'm fine with that. But my ask, if it goes to MCBEC, whoever you go to after, what you bring to us, bring us the biggest pain points with the highest density, the worst congestion in the mornings, in the afternoons. Like, let us see countywide, wherever that is, it is. It doesn't matter whose district it is or what city it's in. Where are the people sitting in traffic every single day? And rank those for us. And I mean, it doesn't have to be 1 to 10, but if it's top 10, all of these, every single day, people just park. What can we do to help those? And then give us those modes. And we need feedback from the other cities on that too. And when you bring us those, then we can look at a cost analysis, because you can't do a cost analysis for 2,000 projects. But what's the biggest bang for the buck? And us collaborate, that word, I can't say it right now. Together, we'll work for solving that. And then we can work on dollars and how we pay for this stuff. But that would be my ask. If we're going to kick this and what comes back to this board, these are my specific asks so that we can prioritize this and then and actually start planning these projects.
So we have gone back and forth, and without, I guess, clear direction on the receive and file versus adopting the plan, the option is to postpone, according to the attorney.
Yeah, so it looks like there's a motion here to come back next month, but I'm not sure if that's going anywhere, but I think we could bring it back next month and with.
Hold on. Is a month enough time, do you think?
So this is what I heard. We need to come back to make sure that the task and the deliverables are met. We need to come back with the items that are not within the scope and identify those in different categories so that you can have an idea what you need to have to move this forward, whether it's to receive and file or to adopt. And the two parameters are really looking at, of all the projects, whether it's the 2000 or the 21 corridors, we need to identify those projects and break it into location, as well as the different modes that will further alleviate congestion. If some of those...
How much traffic congestion relief?
Yes. So with that, as those projects are identified in the locations, we also need to have a separate category in which we need to identify if there are funding or there are projects that are already being worked on in the works within the next, 5 years or so within a municipality, what asking of the county with those municipalities would want to help further that along, right? So that's what I have so far. But other than that, if there's anything else I've missed, I think we can probably maybe come up with those items in 30 days, and I guess the meeting would probably be up to your discretion. 30 days would bring us to probably the zoning, the 24th meeting. I don't know what the agenda is for that, but I can certainly coordinate with zoning as staff for that.
Commissioner Flores.
I just want to make sure that when you come back to us, it's more of a workshop style, so that when we're looking at priorities, we can discuss it mutually to see where we as a board feel that it's a priority. Sort of like TPA. How long is our priority list for our 5-year plan? It's like 200 projects, right? So sort of like that. So that way we can discuss and we can prioritize and we can, and also how many people is it gonna, touch? Because if you know what I mean. All right, thank you.
And it's difficult to balance this because within, for instance, in the Western community, we know there's roadway connections, but we have to navigate through which are those that we need to concentrate and talk with ITID as well as other folks. So there's a lot of things. And as far as questions from the audience, we're not doing anything to the comp plan yet. We're just looking to this. And then further down the line, as we need to tweak the comp plan, we'll do that in a public forum. So,
Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. I think we just need to, not to belabor the point, but so many of these projects cross multiple jurisdictions. When you look at a corridor, it's going to cross multiple jurisdictions. And so I think we can prioritize them, or they can be prioritized based on a cost. But if a jurisdiction doesn't have the funding available, everybody around them can make the investment, and you're still going to have a problem. Mm-hmm. And so it's very this is complex. I think the idea, though, that we can come up with a list of priorities and what the cost is, but unless everybody's on board and saying, yeah, we're all going to do it, and we're going to do it within this time frame, right? We'll be spinning our wheels and spending money. So it does have to be collaborative in those cases. And I think that it's, and ultimately, I mean, this is you've gone through and you have identified, I mean, and as my colleagues have said, we know what our pain points are. I mean, but we don't know what the possible solutions for those pain points are. And that's really what we need help identifying. And transit's going to, if transit, how many cars are we going to remove from the road? How fast do we have to do that? Or if it's signalization, that's going to increase or decrease travel times by 10% or whatever you guys can, the models can estimate. But at some point, we got to get there. But today, that's not where we're at. That's not what you were expected to bring back to us. And so, anyways.
So TWE had summarized everything that we had, and I haven't heard any additions or removal of that. Clerk, did you get what TWE had said? And so do we want to adopt that as board direction to bring us back in approximately 30 days, all the things we've discussed?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate board direction to staff to do that.
Mr. Ricks.
Mayor, I know you're commenting in terms of coming back with prioritization based upon traffic. Just reminding the board that you adopted a safety action plan in May, and based upon accident data, top 20% accidents, prioritized 5 corridors, and the board approved also trying to get an $11 million grant for those 5 years. So that piece of information will be woven into this prioritization that you want to see coming out forward. But that's a key aspect that's overlaid with the countywide master transportation plan.
Thank you. Are those funded, Mr. Ricks?
Well, we applied for the grant in May. We're waiting to hear back from the federal government. And part of that grant is also as a safety in town at Okahili Park.
Thank you. Okay, we are concluded with this. You're clear on direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Would you guys?
Break for lunch.
Guys, let's come back at 2:10. Let's take an hour. We'll come back. It's going to be a long one. Yep, 1 hour at 2:10.